that time. And then last, if you go to the last page, all three of those conditions are completed. So there are only a couple items on there, mostly related to this traffic plan that are, if you will, still open for discussion this evening. I just thought that might be a good way to kind of do some housekeeping. As you recall, this is an application, and we're asking that the school be increased from K6 to K8. And I know the notice was probably still the old notice at 755 students. I just want to make clear.
Yeah, they corrected to 8, what was it?
843.
843, correct, okay.
And that was properly noticed in the all the notices.
I think we talked about that last time when we perfected that, okay,
Correct.
Thank you.
Now, there's a document which is entitled School Operations, Traffic, and Parking Management Plan, which I believe all of you should have. That's the first topic I'm just going to talk about briefly, and then I'll allow, Mr. Dirk, who's far more experienced than I, will answer any specific questions. I think it might be a better way to proceed. Just to walk you through it, what we did is we updated you with all of the information, and it might just be simpler if I summarize it for you for a moment. So we're in calendar year 16-17, so school year that is, and that will be the grade K through 6 we're looking for now with the students' numbers. If you go to the first page of it, we put it right there, 639 students, and we broke it down by grade, so you have every classroom, the number of students within it. I'll give you a second to try to find that.
I got it. A little bit of paper tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate you. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I will.
All set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So just walk you through it briefly. 639 students, grades K6 to K to 6, excuse me. By the school year, academic year 18-19, it would be up to the full enrollment of 843 students, grades K to 8. So there's a graduated, if you will, three-year cycle here through K to 7, K to 6, K to 7, K to 8. We're starting off, if you were allowed it would go to 639 this year, and then the last year of full occupancy would be 843. I do want to let the board know that it's a 5-year charter, so that technically that last year I'm discussing with you, it would be the first year of the new charter. So the school would have to have their charter renewed by the Department of Education. And I thought it might be best to give you those and break it down so it's all in that document for you. These are the projections that Mr. Dirk and the city engineer have worked off of in regards to traffic plan, and it breaks down the number of teachers. So for example, in this year, there would be 65 total staff members. That would be broken up, and we gave you the breakup: 41 teachers, 17 administrative and support, and 6 maintenance and staff. By the last year of this projection, which would be 18-19 again, with 843 students, we would have 95 staff. And again, I gave you the breakdown of the teachers and administrative. So it's spelled out. We're very clear about exactly how many personnel will be on site, what their roles will be, and how many students will be there. This report, this traffic report really uses this. These are the guiding principles, if you will, the underlying facts from which Mr. Dirk and the city's engineers have worked off of. On the second page, and without going into too much detail, the number of buses and the number of students, their eligibility as far as, and it's all laid out, the requirements, was all done in consultation with the city's transportation busing person, Mr. Dakota, again. And these numbers were all done through the director, Mr. Randall, and Mr. Dakota, arriving at the number of buses, the number of students, the percentages based upon grades. And it changes if you're, for example, under 4th grade, you can live a little closer to the school and still be eligible for busing. If you're 5th grade, a little bit further, and I put the requirements in there for you. So those are all spelled out, or excuse me, Mr. Dirk put those in for you. And he could talk to more specifics on those. On the last 2 pages, and I won't go over it in great detail, but it talks about the procedures for pickup, drop-off, how the internal queuing, I believe that was a request from not only yourself, Mr. Chair, but one of the other board members wanted to understand what the queuing would be within the property. So we've laid that out for you. And just a quick reference, if you look on this plan that I have here, this is the area where the queuing will be. So as Mr. Dirk may refer to it, or the city's engineer, this is the all internal into the property. So Middlesex is down here, Middlesex Street. You get in, this is where the queuing takes place, and they'll explain how the parking, the buses all rotate. The number of, there's 8 staff members, all under protocol with walkie-talkies. It's essentially the same system that the Sabas organization has used at their schools throughout the country, which has proven to be very effective in moving people in and out, in very condensed timeframes. So that would be that report. If we take a step over, there were some recommendations from the traffic engineer for the city, which we have no objection to. I would just want to make the board aware, and I think it's germane to condition number 17 that I'll come back and speak about in a few minutes. The cost for number 1, which is for the RSA for Wood Street, is $10,000. And the cost for condition number 4, proposed condition by this traffic engineer for the city, is approximately $76,000. So we would be incurring another $86,000, which we have no objection to those conditions. We think they're appropriate. Our traffic engineer worked with the cities, and I think that it's reasonable to go forward with those. I just want to make the board aware because it kind of segues into the next point. With respect to the conditions we talked about, as you may recall, when the first approvals were allowed, the city sidewalk ordinance wasn't in place yet. It came into place before our last meeting, which we had discussions with the department, DPD, and agreed that we would comply with it. The issue number 17, though, I was informed, it was my understanding that they're duplicative. So it would be a substantial cost, and I believe perhaps an unfair shifting of a large expense if we're to do both. We'll comply with the sidewalk ordinance, but I do think number 17 should be deleted. And the only reason why I bring that last piece I just a moment ago to let you know there's also another $86,000 of new cost, which are costs that we'll if you're to allow it, we would have to bear. So I think that's important just in the board's considerations. The last time we were here, there were a number of opponents, and I'm not sure who's here today and who's not here, but I'd just like to spend a couple minutes and address. We've addressed any of the individuals who spoke here last time. We've actively went out, met with them, addressed their concerns. We've met with planning. Planning has come out to the site twice since we've been there last time. I believe you should have received a report from your senior planner dated August 10th.
Right, you'll have a copy of that, yep.
Yeah, and without belaboring, I'm happy to answer any specific ones, but essentially, when you're coming in on the entrance, there was the condominium owner to the right who was one of the speakers. Those have all been addressed. There's fencing, there's a whole number of conditions that have all been addressed, viewed by city inspectors, and I believe an understanding with the condo association as to remedy those. I can't say that they're thrilled to have a school, but the issues that they addressed have been, or brought up, have been addressed. With respect to the exit, which was the property, you may recall there was a question about some trees coming down and some water pooling on a piece of land. So we went through this, and it's also contained in your memorandum. Again, Commonwealth did not remove those trees, nor did any of our agents, contractors, subs, or anything of that nature. The property that the condominium association was talking about is actually one property over. So in other words, it doesn't directly abut the school property. In between it is what's known as the Bicknell property, which is the apartment buildings that go all the way to the front of Middlesex, has land all the way to the back. Just for point of reference, and this might be easy for everybody you can just look at this chart here. Here's the end of our property here. Mr. Bicknell's property would be here. In between is a small little, like a culvert, like a basin, if you will, almost separating the two. The reason why I bring this up is to the extent that we could address any concerns for the person's property who's over here, we would, and we went through the issue. Unfortunately, we can't put trees back on Mr. Bicknell's property, and that was something outside of our control. So I just wanted to try to make that clear to the board. With respect to the site plan that you originally had or that you've approved, you may recall there were going to be 6 parking spaces on Mr. Bicknell's property down here. It's actually part of the plan that's been approved. We've submitted a new plan removing those 6 spaces because we're not sure that Mr. Bicknell wants them, and we don't have a right to go on his plan. So in working in conjunction with the planning department, they thought it best for us to submit a new plan removing those 6 spaces because they weren't required for any of the parking or traffic. That was more in relation to trying to satisfy some issues with Mr. Bicknell under the easement that was there. So the new plan you have, that's the only change in it. The other change that you'll just see, it's written right on it, just to make it simple. This is a little complicated chart because that's if there were ever future potential development, that was the master plan, if you will. To make things clear for the board, we've had Brian Goodrow, our civil engineer, submit a new plan and put on there exactly how many temporary parking spaces and how many permanent are available on the site in addition to what you have that's been considered by the 2 traffic engineers. So that's, if you will, surplus extra that's not needed for the consideration of this evening, but we thought it best that you see the whole picture. Having that would be with respect to Ms. Timon's August 10th memorandum. That would address what we understood to be the surrounding people who spoke last time. I think we've addressed them all. I think there are obviously some issues that may need discussion, but to the best of our ability, we've addressed them all and worked with the city. I'm not aware of any other of those neighbor issues out there, if you will. And with regards to the traffic, I'll allow Mr. Dirk to explain or answer any questions, but we're not opposed to the recommendations made by the city's traffic engineer, even with the additional cost that we went over. There's 4 conditions set forth that he's provided. So with that, I don't have anything further to present. I'm happy to answer any questions or defer to members of our team.
Thank you.
Okay.
So do you want to turn it over to Jeff at this time and update us on?
Would the board like to, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you were going to talk to your engineer first or him.
If we could hear from Jeff first, if you don't mind?
Oh, okay, no problem.
We always like to hear from Jeff.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks for being here.
Yep, not a
Appreciate it.
problem.
I know he's very familiar with this whole neighborhood here in the city
Yes.
hall. He spent a lot of time there for us.
I
I
have,
appreciate
yes.
his input.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, again, my name is Jeffrey Dirk, principal with Vanessa & Associates, and we're the traffic engineers on this proposal as well as for the prior proposal that has been approved for the K-5 program. So we prepared an updated traffic study essentially for the development. I know I won't go into the details of that, but happy to answer any questions relative to that. I think our task tonight from the last hearing was to update the traffic and parking management plan as well as the operations plan, which has been submitted to you tonight. And we've gone through in great detail, kind of breaking out the number of students and how we expect they're going to arrive at the school to develop a plan. And I'll put that up to you, for you in a moment that shows how we see the site operating. So if you indulge me in a moment, I'll put the plan up. Sure. Actually, I'll show them up, right? So each of the board members should have a copy of this plan because it's quite small to see in what you've got up here in front of you on the board. And it's also attached at the back of the operations plan. And what this does is, I'll describe this as a snapshot in the time of day of the school. And what you're actually looking at if you go through the operations plan, this is the weekday, it's the evening or the afternoon time period when the students are being picked up at the school. And this represents kind of the worst-case scenario in terms of the number of buses and the queuing that will happen on the site. And the reason for that is if you look at the operations plan in the morning, the way the school operates in terms of receiving the students is distinctly different. in that they actually have a couple of different programs going on in the morning, and traffic is more dispersed in terms of how it arrives. So in the morning, they have a program where students can arrive for lunch, or I'm sorry, for breakfast at the school. So you've got a portion of the school, the student population that's arriving for breakfast, and so they come in, they arrive at the school, they get dropped off, they're in the building, the buses are arriving, they leave, and then there's actually another group of students that come in after that that aren't there for the breakfast program. So the traffic is more dispersed. It's not significantly different. In terms of what you're seeing on there in terms of the queuing, there's 72 vehicles that are shown in blue on this plan. The difference in the morning is it's probably closer to about 60 vehicles is what we're showing. So this is the worst case, but not off too much from what you'd see in the morning. So what we're showing on the plan here is basically in the green, we have 95 parking spaces, and as you heard, there's 95 staff. So if we assume at this snapshot in the time period of the day that we have all 95 staff there, which is, it's highly unlikely that that's actually the way it's going to happen. And one of the things that Rafael had described her was that we've gone in painstaking detail to break out the number of custodians, the number of teachers, the number of administrative staff. And the reason for that is so that as we look at the site, the custodians especially, there'll be some there in the morning. They're going to get there to open up the school, turn the heating system on, get the lights operating. So they're going to be there quite early before any of this would really happen. Then as the day goes on, you're going to have more staff that arrive, and probably at the time that the drop-off is happening in the morning, they won't be quite up to 95 because you're going to have some administrative staff that will arrive later in the day. But this plan says basically at this snapshot in time, you've got all 95 staff there. So that's what this shows. So all 95 parking spaces will be occupied with the exception of the 5 handicap spaces. We've shown those basically as being open. Then what you're seeing along the front of the building, which is where the bus drop-offs would happen, you see the 11 buses that are there. One of the things, again, in going into the details of the operations plan and why it's important to describe the way the school will actually operate is that in terms of the number of students that will be on the bus, you'll see a listing of what the criteria are. The school is currently operating today, although at a different location in the city, and one of the things that the school has done in working with this transportation coordinator for the city of Lowell is they've now been able to identify they've got an existing student population that they're going to open shortly, so they know where these students are coming from. And as you look at the criteria for busing, what you'll see, and just in terms of round numbers, is basically if you live outside of a 1-mile radius of where the school is located, you're eligible for busing. So now as the school gets located closer to the Chelmsford area, what you can see is that 1-mile radius in terms of where the school is, most of Lowell is actually outside of that 1-mile radius, and that the students are located much further than a 1-mile distance. So what the expectation is that you're going to have well over 90% of the students that are going to be eligible for busing and will use the buses to come to the school just by virtue of where it's located in the city. The other thing that is important to understand as well, and I know you're all very familiar with this location of the city, and one of the reasons why, one of the conditions that we've worked on with your transportation coordinator is this roadway safety audit, which I can answer any questions about what that is. But basically, if we've got intersections or crosswalks or locations where it's a high crash location, or you have a number of pedestrian-related crashes, it's a high crash location. It's a location that a roadway safety audit would be conducted. This is a location where the school is located, as you know, at the foot of the Rourke Bridge, and when we have the Wood Street intersection with Middlesex Street, and then the next one, which would be at Princeton Boulevard. Those are both high crash locations. So the school department also, when they look at busing criteria, they do not want children walking through locations where there's high hazards, where it's not safe for them to walk, or where they have to cross challenging locations, such as these crosswalks at the foot of the Rourke Bridge. So even though they may be located within that 1-mile radius close to the school department will still bus them, because they don't want those children walking to school on those locations. So basically, when you look at areas where busing won't be available, it's essentially on the Middlesex Street side, towards the Chelmsford line, across from the project site, so it's the Dingwell Street neighborhood, that area there. Basically, everyone else is going to be bused or eligible for busing just by virtue of the number of vehicles that are traveling through this area and the fact that you've got some high crash locations. So what we've shown basically is what they're expecting is 11 buses that's going to transport about 90% of the student population, because they're going to be eligible for busing. Today, in terms of the busing for the school where they're located, they have about 75 to 80% of the students riding the bus, so it's a high percentage. So going up to the 843 students that they're projecting, and now we're located further from the centroid of the city of Lowell, I think the expectation of the school department as well as ourselves is that getting to 90% utilization is not a big lift in this case, because more students are going to actually be eligible for busing. So we've shown 11 buses here, and that's what they expect will be required to bus the students to the site, and that's what they're expecting as well in terms of the transportation coordination for the project site. So as we break the numbers down, you go through the staff, the number of students that are on the bus, we look at the after-school program as well as the before-school program. If there are no siblings at the school, and every one of the additional students that aren't on a bus arrive by private automobile, no one walks, no one bikes to the site, then that leaves us 72 students arriving by private automobile. And again, that assumes no siblings, no carpooling. The same thing with staff. No one walks, no one bikes, no one carpools. This is what it would look like. So what you see is 95 staff vehicles parked, 11 buses along the front of the building. And the way the circulation works for the private automobiles is you basically see them arriving at the one-way entrance driveway, and then you see them queued in this area here. So we've described this as the east parking lot. So that when the vehicles arrive, you see the police detail officer at the Middle Street intersection, so they're controlling the traffic entering. So they'll enter on the east driveway. They'll be directed by staff at this location here to queue up in this area here of the east parking lot. Then you see another staff member here. So this staff member, their key direction here is it's mostly to keep this main drive aisle clear, but the other thing that they do is they're controlling the ability of these vehicles to exit from the parking lot here to proceed to the queuing area that's in the front here. And this is where the student drop-off and pickups happen. There's a sidewalk along this area here, segregated from where the buses are. So the vehicles will be, they start in this area here, they're directed by staff to queue up in this area here. Then the students are let out of their vehicles onto the sidewalk here. They proceed into the building here where they're received, and then the vehicles exit from this queuing area. As vehicles free up, and this is one of the reasons why this walkie-talkie communication that your city transportation coordinator asked to be in place, one of the reasons of the walkie-talkie coordination as well is to, with the staff members here, as soon as the space is freed up, a vehicle's discharged from the lot here, they pull into this area here, they get into the line where the empty space is, and then the same thing happens. So this happens on a repetitive basis until all the students are discharged into the school. The same thing happens in the evening. It's the same procedure when they come back in the evening. The difference in the evening is that you have the after-school program. Based on the current student population and what they have from the past years they've been operating, about 15% of the total student population participates in an after-school program. So at 843 students at the school, there's about 126 students that are going to participate in the after-school program. So you've got a significant population that stays there, either doing sports or some other activity in the school itself. So the dispersal is in the evening, in terms of the departure, it's a little bit more dispersed because they're retaining a portion of the student population. Not to get in the details of the traffic study, but if you look at the traffic numbers as well, that's why you see, if you compare how many students or vehicles in the morning versus the evening, you see a drop-off of about 100. That's the reason why, because during that evening peak period, it's more dispersed because of the fact that we're retaining some of the students on the site. So the important parts of the traffic management plan are the queuing, the operations I described, as well as the staff members. So we've shown 8 staff members throughout the site to direct the way the traffic circulation works. And then, of course, critical as well are the 2 police detail officers out here on Middlesex Street, one at the entrance, one at the exit. So one of the important things as well as we've always had with both the prior approved plan and this plan is to ensure that there's always a clear traveled way in the event of an emergency. So at all times, there's a clear path for an emergency vehicle to get right to the front of the building. It's not blocked by the queuing that's happening, and it's not blocked by the busing. You see just there's a clear path all the way around the site for an emergency vehicle. In the event of an emergency, By having the police detail officers out on the street as well as the staff in the site, they can flush the site quickly as well. If there's a need to get the traffic out of the site, this coordination allows them to flush the site of any vehicles that are in there to allow for the responding emergency vehicles to get right to the front of the building as well. So you've got a plan that's designed to keep a clear traveled way. You also have the ability with the staff, the walkie-talkies, and the police detail officers to flush the site, which is also important as well. So that's the traffic management plan. I can also walk through the conditions, Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to, just to.
Yes,
the
if you
added
would,
ones
please.
on So the first recommendation that we had worked out with the DPD and with the city's traffic engineer is this roadway safety audit. So as I had mentioned, there's 2 locations within the study area or close to the project site that have a high level of crash incidents, and those are at the Middlesex intersection with Wood Street and then the Princeton Boulevard Wood Street intersection as well. Those locations are high crash locations on the state's high crash listing. And so what's been requested is that the applicant conduct what's known as a roadway safety audit. What a roadway safety audit is basically bringing together all of the professionals in the city. You have the police chief, the fire chief, or their representatives, representatives from DPD, the city's traffic engineer, a consultant, as well as representatives from the Mass DOT, the regional planning agency, and interested abutters. And the purpose of this is really, it's a design charrette. So you meet out in the field, everyone wearing safety vests, you view the intersection, and then you kick around ideas. First is to identify what is the problem at this intersection, where are the crashes happening, and describe those conditions. And then you're soliciting input from everyone that's there on what do they see as potential improvements here. As a result of that, you generate a long list of recommendations. And the recommendations are basically structured in three buckets. There's short-term recommendations, so these are quick fixes that can be done at the location. Could be signs, pavement markings, could be retiming of the traffic signal, things like that, or things that are broken that just need to be fixed. So there's short-term recommendations. There's intermediate recommendations, and those are costly recommendations, but not significant in terms of cost. They're things that can be done within a reasonable time frame, and monies can be allocated to that. And then there's long-term recommendations. We know what the long-term recommendation is. Replace the work bridge, rebuild the intersection, replace the traffic signal. That's kind of a long-term recommendation. So what's been requested and what the applicant has agreed to do is conduct the roadway safety audit at those 2 locations as well as Wood Street between the 2 intersections, and that within that roadway safety audit, when the recommendations come from that, what's been requested is that the applicant will commit to expending $25,000 towards the implementation of those improvements, the short-term and the intermediate term improvements at the location. So conduct the roadway safety audit, and then as a result of that, implement the short-term and intermediate recommendations up to a value of $25,000. The next recommendations deal with the monitoring the project site. That was probably one of the more important things we discussed as a part of the K-5 program that was approved. We've done a lot of engineering here. We've developed an operations and safety operations plan for the site. We've also come up with this graphic that shows how we expect the site's going to operate. The important thing is to make sure that this is in fact how it really works. And so this monitoring program requires that the applicant monitor conditions, traffic volumes, queuing within the site, and how the site generally operates, and make sure that it complies with what we presented to you and what you would base your recommendations for approval on. And then if there's any need to be able to come back and make modifications, we would do that. The other part of the monitoring program is looking at those 2 intersections we had mentioned. Look at how they're operating in terms of motorist delays, vehicle queuing at those locations, the safety impacts that we had mentioned, and that if there's anything that needs to be changed to address the impacts resulting from the project, if for some reason after the project is open and operational, there's increased queuing at the intersection or delays or increase at that location, then we have to monitor that, document what is actually happening there, and then implement corrective measures. So basically ensures that if we're saying to you that you increased to 843 students, the plan is implemented, it operates the way we're predicting, there shouldn't be an issue. But just as a fallback to that, we have to go back and monitor how it's actually operating, not how we're predicting it. and that if there's a deviation from our predictions, then we need to implement corrective measures at that location to bring it back in line with what we've expected. So that's condition number 3 in terms of the new recommendations. Condition number 4 takes us to the other side of the Rourke Bridge. So we're at the Rourke Bridge Pawtucket Boulevard intersection. If you look at that location there, there's not an opportunity to have a crossing of Pawtucket Boulevard. And so what's been requested here, just in terms of simplistic terms, is for us to design and construct a crosswalk, and it would be on the, I'll call it the west leg of the intersection. So basically, it's towards the Old Ferry Road side, basically. So we'd be constructing a crosswalk across that location with wheelchair ramps, pedestrian traffic signal equipment, so that the pedestrian would have a safe crossing of that location. And as you know as well, the sidewalk that exists on the Rourke Bridge, it's on the west side. So this allows a continuous path for a pedestrian to get from one side of the Rourke Bridge, cross safely at a signalized intersection, and then come across the bridge over to the Middlesex Street intersection. The last condition under the new recommendations is it deals with that $25,000 payment that was originally approved for the site. It says the city shall apply the remainder of the applicant's $25,000 payment after the completion of item 2. Item 2 is the construction of those safety improvements as a result of this roadway safety audit. So the balance of any money that might be left of that $25,000 would go towards crosswalk improvements outlined in item 4 above. So this is the crosswalk improvements that would take place at the Pawtucket Boulevard intersection. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. There's a lot of information there, so if any specific details or anything you'd like me to go back through, I'd be happy to do that.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Police department committed to their ability to support the details at the required hours?
That I don't know. He asked if the police department had indicated that they had availability to supply detail officers.
We met with the city manager on Wednesday in regards to that, to coordinate that, and we're waiting for some response. That's something that gets handled by the board of the charter school, because that's a charter school cost, so we've coordinated that effort. It is an issue that I was going to bring back up at the end when we talk about all the costs. And it was pointed to us, the extreme cost of that. This would be the only school in the city of Lowell that's required to have police officers for exit or entrance. That was represented to us from the city manager. The cost, you may be familiar with it, but because of the union cost, so if they come for 1 hour, you have to pay 4 hours. If you have them at both the entrance and exit, so you've got 8 hours there, and then 8 hours in the afternoon, 16 hours a day, at roughly $1,600 a day times 50 weeks a year. It's a substantial cost. One of the requests that I was going to make, and I guess now's the time to make it, is that the board order that for the first 30 to 60 days, and if the plan is implemented the way it is, then we would have normal crosswalk and or school staff conducted as is done in every other school in the city, because that's a large ongoing cost to the school itself. Coupled with some of the other expenses which we talked about last time, the school agreed to take over the responsibility of the busing, which is a substantial cost on the school itself, trying to be a good neighbor to the city, and that could run anywhere in the hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. So we thought it would be reasonable to suggest perhaps a 30 to 60 day to make sure that the plan gets implemented as it's supposed to, and then the requirement not be that it be a detail, but that it be staffed, either with the appropriate crosswalks or employees employed by the school to do that. So that's one of the requests I was going to make at the end.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question, Jeff. I'm reading from a July 18th email from Judy to us, and I assume it's still in effect. There is another recommendation for the charter school. Nicholas Bosanetto recommended that parking restrictions be implemented on Middlesex Street in order to improve sightline. Is that still effective? I mean, that's not on the original memo, right?
We
need
have no
some
objection, and I
clarification.
think, just to further the discussion on that, what that really came down to, and, you know, I guess with everything that's proposed, there's people who like it and people don't like it. You know the little,
Bump outs.
what's the proper word? The bump outs, I was asking for the technical term. Bump outs.
Right.
You know, I think one of the board members commented last board meeting, there's the alternative, if you don't have the bump outs, is to restrict parking on that side to allow visual, and then you don't have to make the U. You could do both, have the bump outs and restrict some parking, but really that restricting the parking came up as an alternative. And really, we're fine with whichever way the city wants us to do it. We've put them in. If you tell us to take them out, we'll take them out. It's really up to the city.
Okay.
Can I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead.
Relative to that.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with that.
You know, I was the board member that brought that up. When I exited the site with those
Right.
bump outs.
Yes.
And there were cars
Correct.
parked,
Yes.
literally, the front of my vehicle was in that travel lane for me to be able to see. So and I'm not a traffic engineer, but I mean, you guys have to have noticed that.
Right.
So
We
could
did, and
comment on
that's
that,
why
please.
Nicholas, it was in our report, and Nicholas brought it up as well. I mean, the intent of the bump outs the first time was because we talked about this posting, and the issue is, you can post it, but then you have to enforce it, and this is what I was explaining as well, is that when the school's open, you can't have people park there. So the bump outs were a way to physically make it so you can't park there, but I think as we looked at it, even with the bump outs, there's still the need for some further restriction of parking, and it could be that what we do is go out there and physically mark it and say, you know, go out there, visit, do exactly what you did, mark it, say, we got to get rid of this space, and then apply for the proper ordinances that we need from the city council to restrict that parking, because you can't see. The problem is what you said, which is basically, if you inch out, you're in the traveled way.
Right,
And that we
and
can't
that's
have
my,
that.
my concern, especially, and we can talk about details of staff, but after-school activities,
that's-
there's not going to be anybody there.
Right.
And like I said, it was dangerous.
Right.
And cars come down that road in a hurry.
Right.
And, I mean, that is a dangerous situation. I mean, it's a safety issue. I mean,
And I think we both concurred with the fact that needs to happen.
needs to happen. Okay, all right, thank you.
So bottom line, you'll be working with staff to resolve. You're willing to go either way there.
Well, I think to clarify, it has to be restricted.
Correct.
You're gonna have to
to be
determine
restricted,
how many
yeah.
parking spaces you'll have to go back, but
Yeah, I think it's at least one additional space from there, at least, I would think.
Yes, the way we do that is typically, we'll go out there, we'll measure the sight lines to determine safe stopping distance for a car coming if you do pull out. And then what I do is I just take that I write an ordinance, take it to city council votes on it, we go out there, we post it, and then it just gets enforced.
so, I mean, I think we've determined that has to happen. It's just-
Absolutely.
It's just to the extent is.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm
it's to
sure
be
you can,
determined.
yeah, it's some condition that would require it be determined by the city traffic engineer.
Okay.
Anybody have any more questions for Jeff at this time? If not, we'll proceed with the rest of the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant at this time? If not, I'm going to open up to the public. Okay, anybody here this evening want to speak in favor of the project? Just come to the microphone, please, and give your name and address if you would. Thank you.
I'm Anita Shimolarski. I am the property manager for Riverside condo that abuts this property, so that's at 1955. So the condo association is not opposed at all to this development. There's one issue that kind of is hanging out there that no one seems to want to address, and forgive me, I'm kind of new at the property, but maybe someone has addressed it and I missed something. But at the rear of the property where the trees were removed, which was discussed by Mr. Troy last week, or last hearing, obviously, the view has been opened up, now we have a direct view out there, but more importantly, those trees served a really big purpose because it was catching a lot of the water. It absorbed a lot of the water before it started running down into their area. So now what we have down there is a lot of flooding, big puddles, and we're not talking a little bit of water, we're talking water like this. They've totally lost 1.5 parking spaces. They can't use any of the bottom area. So what I did, being new on the property, I came out to do some investigation. I had the irrigation company come out first to see if maybe there was a line broken underneath. There is no line broken underneath. There's not enough water there that is coming from a sprinkler head, so that's not the cause. I had a drainage person come out that we work with, who's also an excavator, and he went over and looked at the fence line, and it appears where the trees were taken out, a slope has been created, a slope of debris and dirt. So there's quite a difference from where the road is down coming into this property, which could lead to this drainage problem. And I say could because we haven't done testing out there. What we are going to do is bring him in to put some test holes there along the fence to see if that's where water's accumulating. And if at that point we do find that's the cause of it, we would like to have it rectified, either with the developer or with Bicknell. Now, the problem here is that when the association tried to go to Bicknell, he's denying responsibility and he keeps pushing us back to the charter school. But it's definitely something we want rectified. It's, you know, it's not something that they're looking for some free work to get done. We are doing our due diligence. We do want to make sure that that is really the problem. You know, we are going to do some test holes, and at that point, we would like to either invite just a meeting with the developer or with someone from the city and the developer to look at it if indeed those test holes show that that is what the problem is.
So do you think, is that property you're discussing on Bicknell's property, as indicated earlier by Mr.
Right on.
Pellegrino?
Judy, we met with Judy out there and a board member and walked the property, and you know, she had mentioned about irrigation, so I did do that research and had someone come out because we want to make sure that wasn't the problem. So there's definitely a water problem there. Like I said, the excavator came in and said that sloping is probably contributing, but until we do the test holes, we won't know. But we would like that opportunity to do the test holes to investigate further and then work with the developer or the developer in Bicknell to resolve this. I think that was the only outstanding issue, because I think, I obviously wasn't here at the last meeting, but you said a lot of the other things were resolved that Christian Troy had brought up. But this was the only thing that was kind of out here that they were looking for some guidance from the city, you know, some help. Where do we turn right now to do this? So I think that the association's being very fair. Instead of just saying, we want this work done, do it. We are doing our due diligence first to make sure, you know, kind of eliminating all sorts of things before we ask for more. But we just want to kind of keep that on the radar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. I know you spoke about that briefly
Yeah.
in your presentation.
If
Yeah.
I just
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yep,
This
no
is
problem.
what you're talking about.
Exactly, yeah, that's the
Yeah, I
area
don't,
here.
I just,
You've
I
got
just
it?
want to show them so they have a
Yep,
framework.
that's it right
Okay. If I may,
Sure.
this, you can circulate, I apologize.
No problem. I'll
sir,
pass it around.
microphone, please.
I know we've all been up there recently, so.
Yeah, just see the boxes that are
Okay.
on there?
Okay, just wait. Oh. This one, right here?
Yeah, so it said, this is where the puddling this box here,
Right.
those are the trees that were taken down that are not on our property, so.
That's
our
Bicknell's property here, right, yeah. That's
So
that opening there, right.
The only reason why-
And this is,
The entrance, let's wait on the end.
The only reason why I wanted to show you that, because I think it clearly shows, we're not in a butter, and I'm just trying to, so you'll have a pictorial representation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Way up on the left. Entrance.
yeah, then you have the next door. Yeah. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Okay. Anybody want to speak in opposition?
Good evening, my name is Stephen Moses. I live at 1961 Middlesex Street. Before using my prepared remarks, I'd like to address several things that have just been said. Mr. Pellegrino, the developer, talked about the Bicknell property as though it has nothing to do with what's going on in the development. And if you look on the site plan, the exit road is listed as an easement. I believe the easement is from Bicknell. If the easement is from Bicknell, my belief is that Bicknell is being paid to use that property, and in turn, they needed to do something in terms of offsetting their parking and other things that are going on. And that's why my belief, as a person living there as an abutter, is why they took those trees down, and that why we're having a problem with drainage. So for Mr. Pellegrino to say the exact words he said, and we can go through the transcript, but I wrote them down, no agents, contractors, subs, or anything have anything to do with that property, I take issue with that. Based on the fact that there's an easement that's coming from Bicknell, allowing them their exit road, then he's saying something which is not factual. That's number one. Number two, there was a request by the traffic engineer to have police officers for only 30 or 60 days. I think it takes a lot of chutzpah to come in here tonight and say, let's not do what the planning board originally approved, which was do it for a year. Why come in here and suddenly say, let's only do it for 30 or 60 days? That's very unfair to us, and it's a very unfair request, and has no substance. If that's what the planning board originally approved, let's keep it. Third thing, in regard to the bump outs, we keep talking about the school. And the problem is the school keeps talking about the school, keeps talking about the school. It doesn't talk about the neighborhood, it doesn't talk about the community. We who live at 1955, 1959, and 1961 Middlesex Street make a left turn to go towards the Rock Bridge. And in doing that, we are now being obstructed by the fact that right after the bump out, there were 3 parking spaces. And when people come in there to parallel park, they are now parking further out into the street. As a result, our sight line is being obscured by the fact that the traffic is further out there. And so now, when we're trying to pull out, we now have a hazard that did not exist. And instead, everyone's talking about, okay, what about coming out from the school? Well, what about the people who live there, who've lived there for 35 years? That's what's important. Okay, with that, I'd like to present my remarks that I originally had. First, I'd like to express my appreciation to Judy Tillman and Lowell Telecommunications for spending the time and effort to see that tonight's meeting is being telecaptioned. There normally is a person who comes on site, but she's on vacation. So the amount of time that Judy and the LTC spent on having this telecaptioned is very much appreciated. Tonight is what seems like the 15th meeting of the Planning Board devoted to discussing the development of the Lowell Collegiate Charter School. The volume I am holding is a certified written transcript of the Lowell Planning Board meeting that was held on December 3rd, 2012. It goes on for 187 pages. That evening was an extended discussion of what was being proposed. I'm holding a copy of the site plan that was circulated at that meeting. The site plan was done by Hancock Associates. That site plan indicates what is to be built on the property as a K-5 school. Since 2012, meeting after meeting of the Planning Board has focused on new iterations of that site plan for a K-5 school. Most recently, the developer changed the initial plan for a K-5 school and is now asking for approval to expand to grades K-8 and increase the number of students from 540 to 755. Tonight I hear that those numbers are wrong, that it's 639 to 843, which is even more. For historical purposes, we need to recall that during the past 12 months, the developer asked the Planning Board to approve a 3rd and 4th floor during the building construction. It was made very clear that the request was driven by financial expediency. It was explained that it would be less expensive to provide for the 3rd and 4th floor during initial construction of the building rather than go back in and have to alter the building to have a 3rd and 4th floor. The request to provide for that building contingency was approved by the Planning Board. But we also need to recall in the various deliberations that took place prior to the actual approval of the site plan for the K-5 school, there was much discussion about approving what was being proposed and having the school operate for about a year or so and see the impact that it was having on the community with regard to traffic, community, and environmental impacts. So it comes as a bit of a surprise that after receiving the kindness of the Planning Board and allowing the developer to provide for the building contingency of a 3rd and 4th floor, the developer is now coming back, long before the school building has even been completed, alone, occupied, operating, making a request to have the K-8 school. This is troublesome. the last meeting of the planning board, Mr. Boyle gave an excellent summary of what had been approved relative to the permission of the planning board to let the developer have the third and fourth floor for future expansion. Nowhere in Mr. Boyle's summary, nor during the planning board's actual deliberations where the permission was granted, was there an indication, tacit or otherwise, that the developer should proceed with his plans as per the above site plan. As soon as he was ready, he should apply to change the application for K-5 to a K-8 school. It wasn't there. It's important the site plan that was approved by the planning board for a K-5 school be implemented in keeping with that approval. It was clear that the school was to operate, and after a substantial amount of time, there was to be an evaluation as to how the operation was going and if any adjustments were needed. In fact, that continues to the present time, as the city traffic engineer who's here this evening has to undertake studies, including a road safety audit at the two major traffic intersections, being Wood Street and also being over Princeton Boulevard. We're now at the 11th hour in the development of this project. I have a copy of a 4-page letter directed to the members of the planning board, which you folks have received, which encompasses numerous concerns that were submitted by the city's transportation engineer, the fire department, and the city engineer. These concerns are voluminous. One stands out above all others, and I'll read it for the benefit of those who did not receive that letter. Quote, in light of the numerous issues and complexity of the site, I recommend that the planning board include a condition requiring a site monitor who will perform weekly inspections of the site and provide weekly reports to the applicant and to the DPD until the site is ready for occupancy. This site monitor should be a licensed PE, and their fee would be paid by the applicant. This will allow an outside monitor to check the status of the project and notify DPD if there are any issues that need to be rectified in a timely manner. The site monitor would provide reports on the following: site cleaning, erosional control, drainage and detention structure, on-site water and sewer utilities, parking spaces, related pavement, newly constructed roadways, access ways, construction entrance, erosion into ROW, retaining walls, site screening, landscaping, stockpile stabilization. Members of the planning board, as an abutter, I am disappointed that this is the first time this is coming up. I am disappointed that no member of the planning board brought this up over the long history of the deliberations of this project. I think we, the community, need an answer. It is not the developer that the board needs to answer to. There is a high responsibility to the butters, the neighboring community, the students who will walk on Dingwell Street, which has no sidewalk, and to the implementation of the advisements that have been furnished by the city departments that I previously enumerated. I want to again say that consideration of an expansion of a school at this time to K-8 is just not warranted. It is not in keeping with the approval of the planning board provided so that the developer would save money. It is inappropriate to entertain the developer's request for a K-8 school at this time. But at the same time, it's extremely important that the concerns of the various city departments be addressed and then reviewed by the planning board so that the approved K-5 school is in compliance. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak this evening? Anyone else?
Bushman Afshar, president of Village Condominium Associate, 1847 Middlesex Street. We are the immediate abutter, one of the immediate abutters. I would like to inform the planning board. We had a meeting with the applicant, and we worked out a list of items to be done, to be performed by the applicant, out of which one item has been done, that is the fence, the wood fence which was removed. At this point, I would like to request from the board and the applicant that with the remaining item, if they could associate a date of performance, a date by which the rest of the items will be completed, we would really appreciate that. And that would really address our case.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else like to speak? Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, this time I'll turn it over to the board members, whoever have any questions.
I have one question. Mr.
Sure,
Chairman.
Mr. Lockhart, please.
Looking at a memo from city engineer, there's a dated, what was the date? July 29th. These items that should be completed or fixed on the city right-of-way and inside by the driveways, and she lists 6 separate items under the east entrance and 4 under the west entrance, well, 7 under the west entrance. And then a couple of other comments about a pressure test and additional work requested by Hancock on the city's sidewalk. Can you comment on those? And their status, please? The applicant? All right, there we
Sorry, I just have a hard time hearing. What date are you referring to?
I'm just, was it July 29th? This was from the city engineer, I think it was Mario. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
think-
I'm sorry, Mario Madrid.
I think Mario gave us those, and we might have had
Friday,
a follow-up
July
from Lisa
29th.
afterwards, I'm not sure.
I just want to make sure that these issues have been resolved.
I think it's dated July 29th.
Yes.
Did we get another memo from engineering after this, Judy, by any chance?
Just as items to be completed, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Detailed list of what needed to be fixed at that time. And I know that they've been at the site several times. Mario has talked with.
Do you have a copy of that? Do you want to see mine?
Yeah, if I could.
You can tell I highlighted it, but I'm sure you'll pick it up.
Standard stuff.
Go right ahead, I mean.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize what you were talking about.
No
Yes,
problem.
that was, if you recall, last time the bump outs were there, but there was some issues with it. So we had, the engineer came out and inspected it, then we met with them. They came up with some resolutions on how to correct what the issues were. They've already started some of that with the blacktop around it. The balance of those, when will those be completed on the bump outs? So within a week to a week and a half.
And that's some of the things that was addressed by traffic as well. The bump out.
That's still outstanding.
Anything else, Rich?
No, that's all I have. Sure.
Thank you, sir. Actually, Mr. Pellegrino, did you want to address a couple more issues before I turn over to all board members? I know you said you wanted to come back to a couple of things. I apologize.
I did, and I just,
I know some of them were on the
Kinda
chart that you started with, and then,
right. Well, just housekeeping, if, there are a few issues from our view. So when you go back to that conditions,
yeah,
that
the
would
chart.
be the
that
large
was-
sheet that
correct.
you all have. We feel there's 3 conditions related to the sidewalk ordinance. They're numbers 10, 11, and 17. Let's give you a second to get to them.
Yeah.
We don't have any objection with performing what's on items 10 and 11. I just want to make it clear that our view is the sidewalk ordinance encompasses that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mind how it's written, I just want to make sure we're not answering the 2 separate,
Yeah, two
conditions, if
questions
you will.
about, how we put these conditions in prior to that new sidewalk ordinance.
Right.
So obviously, if that wasn't in effect, and obviously I understand what you indicated from tonight's meeting and the previous ones is, you think they duplicate, and now since you complied with the new ordinance, you figure that should control instead of this, instead of being doubled down.
Well, I believe it does, except there, in fairness to Ms. Timon, I think we did have a discussion regarding some of the landscape issues in 11. That's why I'm saying to you, I'm not suggesting 10 and 11 should be deleted. Perhaps it could be said to be performed in conjunction with the new city ordinance, something of that nature. So we know that we're talking about, down the road, if it ever came back up, it's clear. But number 17, I am requesting that to be deleted for the reasons I previously explain.
Lead?
And while I was,
Yeah, because that was,
number 17?
yeah,
And number
that was
17.
the money being paid out for the sidewalks, which you're gonna provide anyway.
Right,
Because of
which
the
we
new
have.
ordinance, right?
Yep, and
And
that
under our
plan's-
new ordinance, that has to be referred to engineering, and engineering has looked at it, and they've signed off.
It's already been accepted, yes.
Okay.
So we're actually getting out there ready to assume, if it's allowed by this board, we'll be starting that work immediately on, because it's quite, it's a big task. There's trees that have to come down, we have to go before boards, there's a whole lot to it.
Because I think the way our new city ordinance reads on that is that it has to be approved by staff even before it comes before us.
It has been.
Yeah, because I know we were involved when it had to come before us to approve the language, and then we sent it back to the council, but I remember in the new ordinance.
No, they were
There
good to
some of the
work
questions
with.
we had,
They,
right?
they got out there right away and were very helpful. The only other issues that, and I want to just give them to you in a list because I think it's better to understand it. You know, we're asking for the 17 to be deleted because we believe that we're paying that, if not more, to comply with the ordinance. That's rather clear. With regards to a couple issues, we talked already about the new transportation, traffic cost, approximately 86,000. That was on from the traffic engineer, that we have no problem with complying with. That's 86,000. The next thing is, I talked to you, and it's really an offline issue. It's about the busing issue, that the school has owned that issue, and it could be upwards, as I understand, up to $400,000 could be. And I don't have a specific number I can give you. That's a range. I'm just trying to express to you that the school is trying to be a good neighbor. With respect to the police details, we've talked about that. I understand Mr. Moses' comments. I respect them. I just think that this, it might be a little much, especially since it's not required any other school in the city. I think that, we'll know in 60 days if it's working, I would think, because we're going to be in constant contact with the traffic department and implementing the RSAs. So I thought that's a reasonable number rather than saying not at all. With respect to the site monitor, it's my understanding, first, we're just about to a stage of temporary occupancy, to take occupancy of part of the property. Most of the issues that would fall under this site monitor have already been addressed, but it's my understanding there's been discussion between our engineer, our civil engineer, and the planning department where we would do an as-built, and they agreed to what would be included in that. If you do the as-built, then you wouldn't need a monitor. So that was our way of trying to compromise and address the issue. I believe, I'm not sure if, I know Ms. Timon has talked with our engineer, so I would suggest that that would be an appropriate way to solve that issue. To be honest with you, I think a monitor is an overlap. We have 3 inspectors out there, 3. I mean, they've been very diligent out there all the time. We're working with the traffic engineer and working with DPD. So, and the civil, I'm sorry, and the, one more department. There's really, I don't think there could be much more focus on this site, and I think it would be duplicative and just another cost. The last issue, and I'm not sure if it's still a proposed condition, I assume it is the pilot. When I was before you last time, you asked us to try to meet. We did do that. I have been very dogged in trying to get an opinion from the law department, as I was promised, and we were even told that. Worked with Ms. Timon, probably drove her nuts, and different aspects of trying to get that. And as I drove down here today, I was told we would have something. I didn't see anything. I don't want to, go over my remarks from before. I just don't think, it's a legally enforceable condition. I don't think, even if it were, it would be a fair condition to impose upon this project in light of all these other, what I would suggest. And the reason why I talk about the 400,000 is not so much that it's related to this permit itself, but it's a very analogous type cost. It's something that the school is agreeing to take on to be a neighbor with the city, just like they can do a pilot program or something like that on a negotiated basis, not on a condition. I couldn't be more confident in the legal aspect I conveyed to the board last time. I had hoped I would have dialogue. I tried. We've met, and with the city departments we have. I've personally called law department, trying to get, some response back, I would ask that the board not adopt that as a condition for all the reasons I've articulated. I don't want to end on that note, but it's an important note because the whole, and this is important for the board, the whole aspect of why we're involved in particular is to assist the school own this building. And the sooner we can do it, the better for both parties, because this is the long-term viability. The other school, and I don't want to bore you with it, but many of the other sites that the Sabbath has come in and run, the boards have ended up buying them, owning them, and operating them to a tremendous windfall to the students of the city, because now the money that they save on fixed costs go to bottom line. They do great sports teams. They do, all these things that are great benefit to the neighbors. They do extra learning programs in the evening for adults from the neighborhood, different languages, all types of things of that nature. So I think we have to put it in context. So I only bring that up in that regards. Unless there's any questions, I have nothing
I mean, after the last meeting, we made the same request to the law department, and we didn't get an answer on it either. And that was
Right, we did.
something that we were hoping to see too.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
And
you told
Judy,
me
you said she'd give it to us as soon as she got it, and she never received it, so obviously she couldn't forward it. But that was, I mean, it was a point well taken, and that's why, for us, we have to make sure if it's legally to do so in the site plan review. And that's why we referred to the law department, and we were hoping to get a decision, but we haven't.
I bring it up with this caution. I don't want to defer the meeting. I know you want an answer to that issue. I think that, my experience tells me that if there was a strong opinion that it was a legally enforceable condition, we've had well over a month to get that opinion, that you probably would have had it. In the interim, I went out and I contacted Attorney General's office. I contacted various city municipal departments who I know the lawyers personally. I'm not aware of any other condition like that in Massachusetts. I'm not aware that anybody agreed that I spoke with, that it would be legally enforceable. But even to take a step further, it wouldn't be legally enforceable in the manner coming through a planning, as a condition on a planning board, which is, a step further. So those are my thoughts, and I make those on behalf. We've met with the board chair, who is present, and many of the board members are, because ultimately that's their cost. So I just, raise it for those
So,
points.
if that language gets put on, how does that affect the cost?
Because they have a option to buy, so we're selling, we've already worked with the bonding company, so they can buy the building. When they buy it, they can't afford it, because if you add $400,000 or $500,000 of taxes to the bottom line, it takes away you remember, this is when you structure a sale to a nonprofit like that, you do 100% financing, because they don't have the reserves built up.
Right.
So there's new market tax credits and various bonds, which are allowing the charter schools all over the United States to own these properties, which is really, they found, enhancing streamlining the money to the children, if you will. So if you took a simple model, and I'm debt servicing, whatever, $2 million, and now I've got $200,000 more in expenses, it takes away your ratio on a debt service. So we've already met with them. If that happens, they won't be able to afford the school, even when they get to full occupancy at the 843.
So do they have a lease agreement with you now, or what's the
They have
legal?
a lease with
a
the
lease
option,
agreement.
with an option to buy.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so the board's clear, we're paying tax right now. We're not asking for relief from that at all. We've been paying, and they're timely, paid. We don't have an issue with that. So long as we own it, we understand, and the board understands that. Even though it's a pass-through tax on the lease, they pay it. It's still something they have to pay. But in order for the board to own it, they couldn't afford a tax payment long-term. I mean, they could do a negotiated one, as I've mentioned, is done in other cities, and we did it, they're not adverse to that. In fact, there's members on the board who are members of nonprofits in the city who actually do pay taxes, different circumstances. But, so you have a very, I would say, practical board.
Well, on some of the things, I reached out and did a little research too as a lawyer, and I'll keep my comments myself on that, because the law department prevails on that, and not me, same as our fire department, but the legal department. But since you mentioned a few of them, I went up and I read quite a bit of case law on it, and I did reach out to other attorneys that I'm very familiar with, but it's not their opinion that's binding with us, so I'll leave it at that. So hopefully, we were all hoping that we'd get that decision, so, because under the site plan, it has to be considered whether it's a reasonable condition. So I guess
and under the Dover, where the
Right.
charters
And I
specifically
looked on the case
enumerated.
law, I'm up on the Dover, most recently, the Regis College versus Town of Weston, 462 Mass 280. And I read that one, and that talked about whether you owned it or you leased it. So I did a little research of that on my own, just to try to help answer some of the questions that have been raised, so.
Yeah, no.
I appreciate that.
I
Yeah.
don't think,
I mean, that cites Massachusetts general law, right there, chapter
we were
48.
having a collegial conversation. I don't think you and I would differ much on where the law is. I'd be surprised if we did.
I think, is there any other thing you want to cover? I know you want to come back to that,
no,
and I
only
want to
if
give you that opportunity before we give more
Only if there's
discussion from
questions
the
the
board.
board has for me, otherwise.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Sorry about that. Rich, do you have any more questions as a result of that? I should have hit him for those questions before I turned it back over to you. Do you have any more questions as a result of that? If not, I'll go to other board members and come back to you if need be.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Moving along. Any other board members want to have comments, or? Joe, anything you want to start, or Jerry, whichever?
Mr. Chairman, sure.
Sure, okay.
Just,
Mr. Fischett, sure.
thank you. To Nick, what did, interested to get your thoughts on the request to reduce the length of time to have police detail to work both the entrance and exit on the, or I should say the exit on the site, because that was a crucial part of our original decision. So if you could give us some of your thoughts on that, please.
Yes, I think we started to realize the cost involved because of the union rules regarding 4-hour shifts. I don't want to be stepping on the police union at all here. My recommendation was that they speak with the police and see what they can work out, because they are going to be employing so much service, so many details. First of all, I wanted to make sure that the police had enough resources to devote, because if the police officers don't take the detail because there's not enough manpower, then what happens? So I wanted them to kind of approach the police and start talking about it, try to work out the logistics behind it. It would be nice if they could, find a way to make that work out. I think having some kind of traffic control at the entrance and the exit is necessary for the transportation plan, for the traffic plan. Again, could it be done with non-police forces? Again, that's a union issue with the city. I don't have, and the planning board doesn't have, I don't think, the authority to tell the police that traffic will be controlled on city streets by some other agency or some other, private, one of these private traffic control groups. So I think that's an issue that just needs to be discussed further, I think, between the applicant and the police department in the city.
Do you think it's appropriate to have staff provide that? I mean,
No, not on, my suggestion was, it's okay to have the staff within the school grounds, as long as they have safety vests and the walkie-talkies, but not out on Middlesex. That's, it's very tough to control traffic. And you can't just have somebody, a teacher. I mean, nothing against teachers. It's just, you have to be very aggressive to control traffic.
you have to have the authority to be aggressive to control traffic. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think you need, the police or some kind of
Now,
traffic control.
obviously, without wondering, what is your feeling about even a timeframe of 30 or 60 days? I mean,
No, I think having some kind of traffic control at the entrance and the exit during arrival and departures is necessary.
Okay.
How that gets worked out between the applicant and the city, that's to be seen, but something needs to be
Your
there.
recommendation is there has to be something.
Yeah,
there.
that's what was
Yep.
that's what was approved, and that's what is in the
Yep.
traffic impact assessment also. I mean, that's part of the plan.
And then, just for clarification, and even, I guess for Mr. Dirk, I just, because part of, and I think we've been grappling with, part of the traffic and parking management plan is, on page 1, I'm trying to at least understand, our biggest concern and part of the safeguards that we had in here, and Mr. Moses alluded to that when, at the prior meeting, and Mr. Boyle had gone into great detail of the safeguards that we had in place regarding the monitoring before we would approve an increase of student body. As I look at this, it is phasing it in. Now, I guess if we combine our monitoring program with the phasing in, I suspect we're accomplishing the same thing, and I guess your comments and then Nick's comments after that. But I don't want to lose that. What I don't want to lose is the control, is that if it's not working out, and it really is a problem, then based on the approval we make here this evening, you can't move on to the next level. It has to be addressed, and if it can be addressed. So if you could just comment on that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and that's my level of comfort as well, is that it's a ramping up that's going to take place. And it goes to the same thing as we're talking about the detail officer, because what we're trying to do is come up with a plan at the beginning that has as many safeguards as possible, and having, whether it's a police detail officer or a crossing guard, somebody that, and I agree, it's not a staff person out on the street. I think it's, to the extent you have a condition that allows for the police chief in consultation with the traffic engineer for the city to make the determination as to what the appropriate person is to be out there, but it's not a staff person. I think, to be clear, it's got to be someone that has the authority to direct traffic on the public way. So that's first and foremost, is a detail officer, a police officer, because they can enforce traffic regulations. Staff can't, obviously. So I think that in terms of looking at it, and as you're thinking about crafting these conditions, that ramping up is something as well with the monitoring. The monitoring has to take place, and I think it's how you structure the monitoring and the reporting. Because what you're doing is basically saying, we're generally comfortable that the site is going to operate the way that's been presented to us, as long as everything that has said is going to happen actually happens. Then it's the enforcement of that. So the monitoring is one piece of that enforcement that basically says, if it's not operating the way that you're saying, then you may not be able to go to that next level. And so as you're talking about like the 30 days of review of the detail officer, whether or not that's appropriate in terms of timeline, you guys can debate that. But it's the same thing with the monitoring. So the school opens this year, then when are you going to get the first monitoring report? I think it was 6 months afterwards. So the school gets operational, and day one, it's not going to look like this. We're going to have staff and detail officers to control it, so it is, I don't want to call it managed chaos, but it's managed, and that it operates in a safe manner. But you need a monitoring report that starts 6 months after this plan's in place and it first opens, so that if there's a problem, it's identified right then and there. And then through DPD, if there's a problem, we fix it. You go back out and monitor it after it's been fixed. Mm-hmm. Another report gets issued, and if it's not working, then it comes back here. And at that point, that's when you basically are saying, listen, you guys said this is the way it's going to work. It's not working that way. So now, it gets brought back to have this conversation about what needs to be brought back in line with what the representation was made to you in terms of how it's going to operate. Because it's not in compliance if it's not working the way that we said it was. So I think that's where structuring that monitoring, and maybe the review of the detail officer, which I think really needs to be deferred to the police department. They need to make the decision on it. But whether that review is consistent with the monitoring reports as well, maybe that's a consideration as well, because you're getting a monitoring report. It's based on having a detail officer out there, because that's a condition, and that's, as Nicholas has said, the traffic study is based on that. It's based on you've got somebody out there that has the enforcement ability to control traffic, and that's a police officer directing the traffic, and that it all works well. If it's working perfectly and the police chief says, you know what, I can do a school crossing guard out there to direct traffic, which is done elsewhere in the city, and they're comfortable with that, and Nicholas says that seems to be an appropriate solution at 6 months, maybe that's when, because it's, I guess your look back is consistent with the monitoring program, which says 6 months afterwards.
Okay, and then, Nick, just your comments on that.
Yeah, like Jeff said, the crossing guards are technically within the police department. They're employees of the police department, so you could change the language if you wanted to police detail or a crossing guard from the police department. The monitoring, the original condition number 6 was to monitor the traffic at the intersections every 6 months for the first year, and then annually thereafter. The new conditions, condition number 3, is to monitor the intersections for traffic. So both the original conditions and the new conditions have traffic monitoring. So, I think that's how we plan on looking at it, and I think that's adequate. If any problem arises, it should show up pretty soon. It's not like it's going to work for 3 years and then all of a sudden, traffic due to the school is going to make things not work any better. So I think the first 3 years is good.
So just clarification, Nick, so the number 3 from Judy's memo to us regarding the recommendations from yourself would be incorporated in number 6. That would be in conjunction with that 6-month review. Is that correct? That's
Right.
Yep, okay.
Right.
Could you repeat that, Jerry? I didn't follow.
Pardon me?
Could you repeat what you just said? I'm sorry.
Well, what Nick was saying is that on the original conditions, condition number 6 is that the Rourke Street intersection every 6 months for the first year following initial occupancy, annually thereafter.
Yep.
And then what he just says here, the applicant shall pay for the cost to monitor traffic volume congestion at the 2 aforementioned intersections and pay for the retiming of the Wood Street, Middlesex signals, recommendations by Wood Street, Princeton Boulevard signal shall be sent to Mass DOT for review, and Mass DOT should be responsible for implementing changes. So it expands on really what we had for condition number 6.
Right.
It would be done every 6,
Yes.
would be done after the first 6 months. Right. Yeah. And in essence, that would incorporate the layered, what we were trying to accomplish. If we do that and then phasing it in so that, okay, so each grade before it could be added, obviously all of this has to comply.
Right, and then you'll get a report saying that it's in compliance. And I think the traffic control out in Middlesex needs to be at the discretion of the chief of police, your chief public safety officer. If he decides that, okay, we're good with a crossing guard, I mean, I think ultimately it's got to go back. It's the public way. So really, he's the only one who can direct traffic within the public way. So if he defers it to a crossing guard or something like that, it'll show up in the monitoring study, and at that point, maybe a recommendation can be made, and that recommendation goes to the police chief, who can say yay or nay as to the change. But really, he needs to have the discretion.
But prior to that, it would be,
It has to be a detail officer based on our representation in the traffic study as well as your current approval. It has to be a detail officer until it's decided otherwise, and that would really need to be, it's at the discretion of the chief of police.
okay, here's my thing, though. Looking at this language, the old language and the new language, what they're monitoring seems to be limited to the intersections, and then there's also Dingwell Street, but now we're talking about broadening the monitoring to take into account the entrance and exit of 2 locations. So, right, so we're going to have to change the language on the monitoring somehow anyway.
You need to include the entrance and exits, because if,
We need to, and, I think we need to include the pedestrian movements as well, sort of leaving in
Right.
here, sorry.
Yeah. We haven't got there yet, but feel
Yes, but, yeah, we need to revise this monitoring condition in sort of a comprehensive manner.
And then, on the, again, on the bump outs, and again, to Mr. Moses' point, and it really is, what we're talking about the site plan, but he's absolutely correct. It's about the safety of everyone pulling out beyond that point. And obviously, that sightline has been compromised almost as a result of the bump outs, it almost looks like, but it certainly didn't help, I guess, is the best way to, it didn't work the way I think originally anticipated.
Yeah, I think
Fair
one
to
of-
say.
Right, one of the things that we can do, and we'll call it unintended consequences of
Right.
what was trying to be a good thing there, is that if there, sometimes what's helpful, and that you'd see this throughout the city, is you can provide some markings to try to differentiate or delineate where you want the vehicles, some parking space markings, basically. Because if we want to make sure people are up against the curb, that's where they're supposed to be. If they're not, then maybe we add some markings through kind of what Nicholas was saying. When we go back out and we decide where there's no parking, then we've got to add some pavement markings and some signs, and maybe we mark where the vehicles are supposed to be. It'll give people who are pulling into those spaces after those bump outs some positive guidance as terms of positioning their vehicles, and that may be what's happening today, is there's no guidance, so people just kind of, it's an abrupt pull in,
Yeah.
and they're not getting against the curb.
All right, and then, and I guess as long as we're in agreement on condition number 17, and again, part of that was the monitoring as well, which Joe alluded to, and Judy had it in the memo as well, regarding, and actually it was a separate email, because Judy, I think you alluded to the fact that you originally had discussed with Mr. Pellegrino that you felt that that was a duplication, but then realizing after the fact that, geez, part of that pedestrian monitoring, part of that was the element of pedestrian monitoring, and I think, as Mr. Boyle alluded to, we don't want to lose sight of that. And so I can appreciate what was indicated. I think initially everybody thought it was a duplication, but I think at the very least, we want to make sure that's part of the monitoring, because if anything has to be done to adjust that, we want to make sure that's incorporated in there. Did I understand that correctly from what you sent us?
The original condition that looks beyond the 1,000 feet. And I certainly think that the work that they are presenting in their sidewalk plan to address the 1,000 feet and to address the ordinance can be part of their first year of pedestrian improvements. But the original condition was meant to look past the first year and past the 1,000 feet, really.
Right. And then again, that would make sense if we layer that similar to the traffic monitoring, because then we're increasing the student body. If they meet the compliance the first year, and then they're allowed to increase the student body, then we're monitoring the pedestrian effects as well. Then we're going to the next year for the traffic, monitoring the pedestrian as well. So I think that was the intent all along. So as long as we incorporate that, I think, are we in agreement with, I think that's how, I think everybody.
Yeah, and I think part of that was, if my memory serves me correctly, was some of that monitoring was how the pedestrians were going to come down Dingwell Street
Yes.
as well.
Correct.
Because we spent a lot of time on the sidewalks,
Correct.
knowing that way, and we spent a lot of time on the Dingwell being the one-way street.
Yes.
And the question
Right at the
was,
school.
whether we open up Dingwell, ask to have it changed, or the students coming down that way. And I think now we do have the benefit of some more information, as you described earlier, with where the students are coming from, which we didn't have
Right.
3 years ago.
Correct.
So now we know more will be busing, but a lot of time was spent on that Dingwell. And I think part of those, as you indicated, a lot of them would be foot traffic.
Correct. Yeah, and our traffic counts, when we do traffic counts, they include pedestrians and bicycles, but it doesn't hurt to add that in there to say that, it could be just as simple as saying that the traffic counts that form the basis of the monitoring shall include pedestrians and bicycles as well. We collect it anyways, and that was one of the things we were just talking about with Mr. Pellegrino as well, is that it's not an added cost, because we collect that data anyways when we're doing the monitoring.
So that helps you, because typically that would help you decide how many vehicles, because how many people are not using the vehicle by either bike or walkage.
Absolutely, and where they're crossing, by direction as well, because that's important to us. And as you're talking about the sidewalks, what's the volume of pedestrians on the sidewalks and where are they coming from? So we can see, making sure that the sidewalks, where they are, people are using them, and that where they are using them, that they're safe and adequate. So that all comes as a part of the study that we would do anyways, but it doesn't hurt just to spell it right out.
I remember when we were talking about the sidewalks, it wasn't just the charter school side, we expanded it to the opposite side as well. Because first it was just to have the sidewalks on the school side. Then after a long discussion, the vote came in to put them, to monitor on both sides.
Right,
then the
because it's
Dingwell as well, right.
discontinuous on the other side. So the traffic counts, that if they include the pedestrians, we'll know where they are. So that provides some feedback, not only for us, but for the city, in terms of where the pedestrians are walking.
Thank you. I hope that clarifies, Jeff. I mean, what Jeff had to say, but if you have any questions further than that, Jerry, but I'm just remember how the pedestrian thing, you talked
Oh,
about
yeah.
both sides, remember in Dingwell
Yep.
was a big thing.
Oh, exactly. Well, and based on the criteria you describe here tonight, it'll be mainly students, if they're walking, they'll come from the apartments that are right in front over there, or that neighborhood.
Correct.
That includes Dingwell, right across from the school for the most part.
That's why it's important as well. As you know, we have the crosswalk just to the east of the entrance, and that's where we're talking about the detail officer, whoever's going to be out there. That's why they have to have positive control of the public right-of-way, because that's where the crossing is. If they're coming from that neighborhood, that's how they're getting to the school.
Right, okay, good, all right, thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Boyle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, that punch list that came out of the last meeting where there were all of the problems with the abutting condo, which one was that? Was that the Riverside condos? Was that 1847 Middlesex Street? Are we talking, there's the gentleman who, this gentleman here came up. Is that Riverside condos?
No, that's Village Condominium, 1847.
Okay. Okay, and is that the one that we were talking about last time where there was the drop-off? That was the one we were talking about last time, Judy?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, okay. All right,
And I would like to add a couple more words that I forgot when I was up there.
okay. Could you come up to the microphone, please, then?
This is actually not very much unrelated to the issue of monitoring, because it's related to the bump outs, really. And everybody has been talking about bump outs. And Middlesex Street, as you know, has a very high level of service traffic-wise. And I'm just wondering if whomsoever proposed those bump outs, because one of them is right in front of our driveway. Whomsoever has proposed those bump outs has really produced also, according to the current technical procedures and common engineering standards, also it has been produced that they are really warranted. So if such a report has not been submitted or given, I was suggesting humbly that maybe whomsoever suggested those bump outs may submit a summary that proves that those bump outs are really warranted on such a thorough way, which has got such a high level of service. If it was a back road, I would understand, but something like that. And of course, in terms of punch list, I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, this discussion of whether the money in condition 17 is or isn't duplicative of the sidewalk improvement plan. Wouldn't some of it be duplicative?
I would say that the work that they're going to do as part of the sidewalk plan is to address the first year.
Okay. The first year. So would that refer to the initial $50,000 payment? At a certain point, we're gonna have to get to numbers here. If some of what was supposed to be covered by this is being covered by their conformance with the sidewalk improvement plan, then we need to figure out how much we still require.
Right, so I mean, I think that if they were required, I'm just looking at the exact language from the first, decision. Financial contribution is offered to the applicant and 25 additional each year after. So the initial 50,000, I would think they'd be able to subtract from that whatever they have paid for the 1,000 feet for the sidewalk plan to conform to the ordinance.
See, I think that sounds, that sounds entirely reasonable, that I think what we've got here is the right amount of an ask. And we just need to redo the language basically to keep it there. Okay. Okay, that $86,000 number that came up, that was exclusively for the Pawtucket Boulevard across the river improvements? Is that right?
$10,000 of that was to conduct a road safety audit on this side of the river.
Oh, okay.
And then the $76,000 is their estimate of constructing that crosswalk across the Pawtucket Boulevard on the other side.
Okay, okay. All right. As I said last time, when I talked about the history here, we really wanted to see how this worked, how the traffic worked out before we authorized an expansion. And I'm still not comfortable with the idea that now we're going to be getting a much greater we're going to be getting this big expansion before there's any study done, where you know, the whole idea of what we were doing was to get that information before there was an expansion. On the other hand, now that we're adding some things to that study, to that monitoring, we're adding the pedestrian performance. We're adding, you know, we're expanding it from just a couple of intersections to being the entire study area of the project, is basically what I'm talking about. I mean, that does weigh a little bit in the other direction. We're actually going to be getting a better monitoring, more comprehensive data about it. But 3 entire grades worth of additional students, hundreds of students. I got to think about that one. Yep. That's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stansky, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that we've already spoken about we've already spoken about addressing the concerns of the abutters, and I'm reasonably confident that that's going to be taken care of. And as I've said all along, you know, my particular concerns has been traffic and traffic management and safety here. You know, we all know that it's a challenging site, it's a challenging location, and although I respect the studies that are done, it's based on theoretical data as opposed to empirical data. And I think the other plan's well-written, creative solution of the problem, but the concern is with the reality of it. And in particular, spreading out particularly the private pickups, and the queuing and the space. One of the concerns I would have was, parents are going to become impatient with that, and they're going to find ways around it, like parking out on Middlesex Street and, having the kids walk out, or coming and getting the kid and walking back out again. So those are concerns, they certainly can be dealt with, I have no doubt about that, but it's something to consider. I think the independent monitoring and reporting, is going to tell the story. That in conjunction with, monitoring and observation by traffic engineer, by the police department, and their traffic division, I think that, this can be worked out. One of the things that came up to mind, it looks like the parking on the site is maxed out, with staff and so forth. What's going to happen if you have a program or an assembly to which, parents come? That's something that needs to be addressed. We don't necessarily have to address that here tonight, but I think that's a major concern. If you've got, 500, 600, 700 students, and, wouldn't necessarily have an assembly all at once, but, the potential for 100, 200 parents coming to a program, could well be an issue, and I think that's something that needs to be considered. So, but getting back to the basics of the plan at hand, it looks like, for year one, you need 639, approval for 639 students as opposed to, I believe it's the 545, which you've had in the past. I would propose that we give you approval for that 639 or some such number close to that for year one, and then subject to the traffic studies and the monitoring that are done, after this current school year, you come back before the board and request, with real data, real operations of what took place, and proves out that it worked. And I have no doubt that at that time we would, consider the approval for the 843. But I just, not comfortable approving 843, as a jump from the 545 already approved. So that would be my proposal.
Thank you. I just have a couple of comments. I think we had a lot of discussion from I just have a couple of comments. I know we had a lot of discussion with the traffic, the engineering. I think the traffic was the big thing, as how we spent a lot of time on that when we were here 3 years ago, after several meetings, and some going late until the next day. I think with the new plans that we received since last time, I'm glad we did get the new plans. I'm glad Mr. Dirk was here to show, because my big concern was how it was going to work on site. I think with the monitoring that is set up, and the way Mr. Dirk and our traffic engineer have addressed the situation to have it monitored and come back, I think that kind of alleviates the concerns that I had. I know when we first approved this, we thought we'd be sitting here now 3 years later, the school would have been built, we'd be coming in for the extra grade, then the extra grade, and that's what we were all hoping to see. But looking at the numbers, we do get some more information. As indicated, we know where the students are coming from, so we do have some more information how it gets involved in the traffic study. So I'm more confident now, and especially seeing how the interior traffic works and the situation in regards to the traffic. So with the concerns that we've had so far, and I think The fire department, the only thing they had to say is, you know, they want final approval on the suppression system and the fire evacuation for the upper grades, and I think that can be something that can be put out as a condition. But to add for the 3, I think with the morning turn program as set up and coming back, I think as indicated by both the traffic engineers, we'd know in 6 months how it's working. If it's not working, then what has to be tweaked before it goes to the next 6 months and the next 6 months from there. I think when we talked about number 17, I think that one, the fact that, you know, we did talk about the pedestrian traffic. I think somehow if we amended that, as Mr. Dirk said, it's in his study anyways. So if we worked out the, you know, to change the language due to the fact that the money is, as indicated, which we have from planning staff, how that it can be incorporated, or we can change the language a little bit to include the new sidewalk ordinance. But if we do say just monitor the foot traffic, pedestrian traffic in that area as well, I don't think it's, as Mr. Dirk said, it's nothing different than what we're doing now. So it's just, I think, a change of language to make sure that we still have that, so we don't leave sight of the original discussion that we made years ago and that people agreed to do. And back to the police officer, I would say leave it as is for now. That wasn't a suggestion that came from the planning board. That was a suggestion that came from the applicant. So I don't feel if we left it there for a period of time, as the engineer said, the traffic, if the monitor and everything else, see how that works, and then later, if we have to change it after a period of time, to have, as indicated, let the police department see how it's working, and see after a trial program, how the chief of police would feel, whether he have a detail officer up there, or, as indicated, or if they put a traffic person in, traffic guard to change it. So I think that hopefully a lot of the concerns that we've had before, after looking at all the traffic engineering, and I think some of the engineering and the traffic has changed quite a bit since we did the different intersection down at the Wood Street with the other project that we approved. And I know a lot of people thought that would never be improved, and I know no one believed us, but we had to take faith in what the traffic engineers told us, and as a result of listening to them, it did improve. So I think we're kind of almost in the same position now, relying on the traffic engineers to tell us which way it's going to work. They both agreed to a lot of things that have to be monitored, have to be watched. So when it comes to that, I rely on their expertise, like I do when it comes to the fire department and all the other city departments who are great help to us in making any decision. So I think with some of them comments on being amended, I think I'd have no problem with approving it. The only problem I have is with that pilot language, and that still, I would say, I think we still have to get the opinion from the law department before we can act one way or another on that. So whether we have to wait a period of time to address that, because hopefully we on the impression we'd have it by this meeting, so hopefully we'll have it shortly thereof, shortly from here. So I think the only other couple of conditions that Mr. Pellegrino indicated was more or less towards the sidewalk ones, and I think those we can incorporate because of the new ordinance. So besides that, I have no further comments unless any of the board members have follow-up? Yeah.
One question.
Okay, go ahead. Richard?
Just relative to the sidewalk improvement plan, which is, you know, critical to the project. The sidewalks up there now, they really need some improvement. Am I interpreting this right, Judy, that as the monitoring takes place and pedestrian routes to the site are established, that will dictate the timing and where improvements are made on the sidewalks? Or is that the plan?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes, so that condition, the original condition, does say that the pedestrian access routes, safety concerns are identified by the monitoring program.
And then at that point, they'll communicate those needs.
And will be reviewed by staff to implement sidewalk improvements
Okay,
as
yeah,
appropriate.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure,
if I just
go
may, in the memo we received from Judy dated August 10th, there was the recommendation for a site monitor, and I believe Mr. Pellegrino had, I guess, was offering something as an alternative to that, or did I get in my notes, is that, indicated you did an as-built on the site, and indicated how it was, you had 3 inspectors on the site, but I just, Judy, to your recommendation here, and again, because there was some issues when we, at the last meeting that were brought to our attention by abutters, and even when we went out there on the site, has there been some discussion further beyond your recommendation initially from August 10th?
Yes, we did talk with the applicant about that. We had a meeting, and that was brought up. And we talked about having the fact that they're close to occupancy, and that if they were to provide an as-built signed by their engineer to it, that would basically assert that what they have built, you know, they're going to put it on paper and stamp that plan to assure us that they've built what's on the ground has been documented. So that as-built would be required before occupancy. Usually a site monitor you have at the beginning of a project.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Have it
we're
for
well
the-
down the road from that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So from your original recommendation from August 10th, you're satisfied with the as-built and
Yeah.
the work that's being done in order to determine if an occupancy permit can be issued?
Yes.
At this point? Okay, all right.
Any board members have any other further follow-up?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I really like Mr. Richard's idea, Mr. Snetsky's idea about permitting an expansion of 1 grade and them coming back. Because in conjunction with the monitoring program, we then don't have to try to guess ahead and write language about, you know, authorizing staff to make changes to our decision. We don't have to be vague in our decision in order to allow the flexibility. We can look at the monitoring program and put exactly what we want into a subsequent decision, one that is informed by the conclusions of the monitoring program. My preference would still be to keep the cap where it is now until that monitoring program is done, as per our decisions in the past. But taking into account that we assumed the school will have been in operation for a while before we got to this point, and it hasn't, so we kind of have to deal with that reality. And also the addition, the beefing up of the monitoring program. I think that's a pretty good solution. I think we should go in that direction. Another point I wanted to make was about the pilot program proposal. I was really hoping that we would have some advice, some legal advice going into this, but we haven't. And so that really puts it on us. It would be nice if we could base this on the judgment of the city solicitor's office, but we can't. And so where that leaves me is drawing my own conclusion about legality. And while that's far from an ideal situation, that's the situation that we're in. And in my opinion, this is a site plan. There was a situation recently in this city in which an official caused the city to be in some legal jeopardy and then continued the court case at fairly considerable expense to the city when there wasn't really a good legal situation behind it. And I don't intend to operate in that manner. In my opinion, it would be subjecting the city to a bad legal situation if we were to put such a condition on a site plan review. And I you know, unless I've got an okay from the city solicitor's office, I am not inclined at all to do that. So I would, I don't think it would be wise for us to put a condition, a fiscal condition like that onto a site plan review decision. And those are my two comments, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any further comments? Sure, go ahead.
If I may again, just coming back to the math on all of this, just so I make sure I've clear. The first 50,000, if we go to condition 17, the city shall accept from the applicant a financial contribution, 50,000 is offered by the applicant prior to building occupancy, and so has the 50,000 been paid? No, so we're waiting for that 50,000, right? Is that included in, that's why I just want to understand the 86,000. I'm just trying to figure out how to condition that. Sure. No, absolutely. If you can clear it up, that would be helpful.
I think I can, just 2 points. Your immediate point, the sidewalk ordinance, if you wanted to make it very simple, whatever we expend to comply with the sidewalk ordinance gets deducted from that, whatever that.
The original 150?
150.
Okay,
And then whatever's left over would go toward future
Yep.
potential improvements if needed.
perfect.
Okay,
That works.
all right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're not trying to get out of it, we just don't want to.
You just want to be duplicate, we understand
right.
that.
I just don't
Yeah,
want to
makes sense.
phrase it where we realize we created
I
a
think that's
gap.
an easy way to phrase it, and it solves it. The second issue, with respect to the proposal from, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Century. There's two problems we have with that. One is a logistical issue with our lender, and on the number of students under the permit. And the second one is with representations to DOE with respect to our ability to house so many students. And so it's a problem to do it that way. But a more practical reason why it's a problem, I'm going to have Mr. Dirk explain, because from a practical standpoint, even if you did what's proposed, it wouldn't accomplish the goal that you're seeking to accomplish. And perhaps you can explain that.
Just briefly, from a logistical perspective, what I was mentioning is it always puts us, we'll always be 2 years behind the grade, because if it requires open the school for a year and then monitor all of these things that we said we're going to do. So we do the monitoring year after it's open. If it's 6 months and then a year afterwards, we wouldn't be able to come back to you again for at least a year, which means from their enrollment perspective, they're always going to be 2 years behind in the ramping up. There's no way that they could open the school for 6 months to a year, do the monitoring, and then get enrollment to add another grade or 2 grades, and submit it all, get back to you for an approval. From the standpoint of logistics of how they'd be able to operate the school, they're always going to be at least a year, if not 2 years, behind the ramping up.
I'm a little confused by that, and I thought that the monitoring was an ongoing process.
The first report, the way it's structured right now, the first report you get at 6 months, then you're going to get another report 1 year after it's been in place, essentially. So the way the monitoring would work, the way it's structured now is they open with K through 6. So for the first, then we monitor for the first 6 months and then issue a report. If
that's
corrective
March.
measures need to be taken, they're documented in the report. Then we're going to come back to you another 6 months after, so it's a year afterwards, to show how it's actually working. So what you're basically doing is you get the first report at 6 months, then it's annually thereafter. So there'll be another report, another 6 months in, so it's a year full of occupancy. And that's when you're going to get a monitoring report, and then it's annually thereafter.
I don't have a problem with getting a 6-month report to see that the plan as presented is working. You know, the ongoing monitoring and tweaking, you know, is a down-the-road thing, you know, to maintain the safety and the viability of the plan. But if you could come back to us 6 months after the school is open and say, here's the data from those 6 months, and it's working essentially according to the plan, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't know, I can't speak for the rest of the board,
Yeah,
but,
no,
you know,
that
that's
makes
what I was kind of anticipating.
But they can't, the thing is, they can't offer slots for the next grade until they know that they're able to offer those slots, which would mean that they actually have an approval to be able to do that. The way we're structured right now is it basically says it's 6 months. If it says it's not working, then basically we're in violation of whatever approval you've given. So they wouldn't be able to add the next grade because you would get a report from myself as well as validated by the city staff that says, listen, it's not working. And so you
Exactly.
can't. So
That's exactly the point.
so what we're doing in terms of what was just expressed is that all of the numbers that have been represented to the lender as well as to the Department of Education, that's already been put in place. And what we're saying is, we're confident it'll work, but if it's not working, then they're not going to be able to get to the next grade level anyways, because your staff is going to say it's not working, so they can't go to the next grade. And so they'd be in violation of whatever approval that would be granted. So we're asking for you to approve the full 843 now with the monitoring program. And the monitoring program is basically putting in place a provision that says if they're not meeting the goals of safe operation of the plant as represented, then they can't go to the next grade level anyways. Even though you've approved it, if it's not working the way they've said it is, and your staff would have to validate, in fact, that it is working that way, they couldn't go to the next grade level anyways because they're in violation of what you've approved.
But,
Judy and Nick, are you in concurrence with that statement that once let's say we make the approval tonight of 843, if the monitoring plan is not working, isn't that approval in place? I mean, you know, and it could be pulled back at that point? Yeah, you could say, oh, we want you to do this, this, and this, but, you know, essentially, once we say you're approved for 843, that approval's a done deal. Am I correct in that?
Let me do
I
that.
think it's kind of conditional. Isn't it? It's conditional because we're gonna monitor it over the period of time.
Right.
And if that monitoring numbers are not proposed to where they're gonna be, then we're gonna have to take further action. Because it's kind of conditional on, as Jeff said earlier, we're gonna see how that monitoring process is working. If something's not working, we're not waiting until the very end result to fix it. We're gonna fix it in the interim. So it's kind of a monitoring process that's ongoing, so it's kind of a conditional approval that continues to exist in the life of the project. Do you agree with that, Judy? That's the way I would look at it. I mean, because it's a conditional approval, because each pump out is gonna be monitored. I mean, each new grade, I should say.
Right, so essentially, within your monitoring program,
It's a
you have
conditional.
conditions.
Right.
Yes.
Correct. That monitoring is a conditional approval.
Yeah.
And we have had past projects where DPD has brought it back because staff and the applicant were in disagreement
Yeah, right.
over a certain condition that had to come back to us for decision.
Or they were in disagreement on how to correct that condition.
Correct.
And then from further discussion, we acted on it. So it's kind of a conditional approval as it's monitored and continued to go.
and in
Do
addition.
you agree on that, Jeff? I mean,
Yeah, because I think what we're talking about is it's a creation of a public safety hazard, which would put it out of violation of a permit you've issued. You can't create a public safety hazard, even if you've
Which
approved.
definitely falls on the site plan, the public
Right,
safety.
even if you've approved the project, it's not, it would be in violation.
And in addition to that, there's another mechanism here, which is that if we were to approve a one-year expansion now, they would do their 6 months of monitoring, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Then they're back here in April applying for yet another special permit for those other 2 grades. And if the monitoring shows that something isn't working, then it falls on them in their next application to say, we're going to change this and this and this and this to make sure these things are working. And so there's those 2 mechanisms where we can address that. There's the ongoing thing where they make little tweaks all along, but there's also this big one where we get our first big bite at the apple, and if we see anything we don't like, they're on the hook to apply for another special permit. And so, yeah, if there's problems, you know, that's our chance and your chance to explain how they're going to be fixed. We can come to an agreement. I don't see why that needs to, we come to an agreement over the course of April, May, and, ideally, from your perspective, we issue that second permit for the expansion up to the 8th grade, and then you can start taking, Why wouldn't that work for you?
Two things. There's, in addition to what we already discussed, we'd also have to go back and get a whole new occupancy permit and go back through that inspection. But there's three reasons. One, it's a direct impact, and those of you who have dealt with financing, you understand these are they're lending against, and as you know, the third or fourth floor is not built out yet based upon that. So that's the overriding concern. This is the economic viability of it. The second issue is if you approve the 843, if we try to do it the proposed way, 1 year at a time, we'll never be able to get back in, and we have deadlines as early as February of each year for enrollment for the state, which we have to commit to, and they're already committed to through the first 5 years of the charter, actually through the first, going into the next year. So we can't catch up with that. We'd have to come back in before you. You have the condition of enforcement by doing it the way that we're requesting. The whole rationale for why the traffic engineers came up with this very detailed, very, our view, cumbersome reporting requirement, which we're happy to do, is so that we can have that approval and you maintain control of the project. It just doesn't work for us to go the other way, because we have to come back in, then we have to go to the building department, get new certificate occupancies, we're in violation of our loan documents, the covenants, it's a logistical nightmare for us. And if we're also gonna try to sell this to the school at some point, or sooner than later, these are things that, on a bonding schedule, it's one thing if it's approved subject to, versus it's not. For those reasons, I just respectfully ask that you treat it in the manner we're requesting, as opposed to 1 year at a time. I think it gives you all of the safeguards you need.
I don't think we'd need to do this 1 year at a time, going forward forever for every expansion of this school, but I think we want the first one, don't we?
I'm satisfied with the way it's going as they proposed and the conditions that we put out.
Me too.
I
I
don't
think it's a
want to,
conditional approval, step by step by step. It's going to be monitored by other traffic engineers, city engineer, the planning staff. I mean, if you're not going to do it, they're not going to meet the numbers. But I think they've all agreed how to monitor it. They all agreed how to pay for it. I'm very comfortable with it. I think it's a conditional approval. Instead of us coming in conditional approval every 6 months, we give it the one conditional approval to begin with. Meets all the criteria, it's done. If it doesn't, it comes back. I mean, that's what we did 3 years ago. I know we changed the time period, but now we have different information that's come forward. We do have approval from the traffic engineer on both sides that willing to work through and come back and report back on the monitoring system. I think it's clear, precise, and I think they spent a lot of time on it. I'm comfortable with it. I think it's the way to go. That's my opinion, but.
Me too. Yeah,
And
I do too.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, is, again, if the traffic engineer and the applicant's engineer cannot agree, DPD, with, after the results of the monitoring, of what mitigating traffic measures have to be taken, it comes back to the board, because it's a condition going forward. I mean, that's how we've handled that in the past. And I agree. I mean, I felt the same way, and I think at the last meeting, I made it clear, we weren't keeping the applicant off balance. We made it clear how we wanted this to go, and so that we could phase all of this in because we were concerned. And I think that's, and I think, I mean, you're being consistent with that, and I felt strongly about that, but I absolutely have a degree of confidence based on the monitoring program that's been put in, that's being proposed here, working in conjunction with the city's traffic engineer and DPD, and understanding that after these, the various monitoring has been taking place after 6 months and then annually, and if they detect some sort of issues that have to be addressed, there has to be, it's clear, if the city says this is what has to be done, this is what has to be done. If the applicant doesn't agree to it, then it comes back here and we say, we make a decision. That's how we've handled, Mr. Chairman, if I'm wrong, I mean.
And then they wouldn't get the occupancy permit to open up the future grades in the future. So they wouldn't get the 6th grade, they wouldn't get the 7th grade, or they wouldn't get the 8th grade, because the condition wasn't met, so therefore the occupancy wouldn't sign off. It's a continuous condition, that's in effect until the whole thing's built out.
Right.
Oh, that sounds like a fairly reliable system.
That's the way I mean, everybody's
But
entitled to their opinion.
is that actually true, that they would need to get a new occupancy permit for each grade they add? Maybe that's a question for the applicant.
Well, I mean, if the conditions aren't met, then how can they build out the new schools? I mean, the new build, each grade, because we don't
We've
monitor each
already-
6 months,
We've already approved them to build out that space.
right? But
I'm sorry,
so maybe they couldn't build out, but if it came back, we could change any condition because it wasn't abide by the condition as we set forth this evening.
If it's
Mr. Chairman,
determined that it's
wouldn't-
unsafe to add additional grades,
As he said.
and then DPD offers mitigating factors that need to be implemented, and the applicant disagrees, then it comes back here before the board.
Right.
And we determine that whether it's appropriate for what they're recommending, or whether we say, no, what DPD and the city's traffic engineer is recommending has to be implemented. We did that with, on the intersection of Wood Street
Right.
and Wood Street for the, the Lowell 5. With
Oh, yeah.
the,
Oh, yeah, Lowell 5.
We had the
Down
traffic,
there,
we had the
yeah,
city
Western
engineer
Street,
here.
yeah.
On
We
Western
had the
Street.
applicant before us, and there
Right,
was
we did.
kind of a disagreement of what had to be done with the intersection with the lights and the crosswalk.
And they came back later.
Ultimately, we said, look, at city's engineer is saying, this has to be done, this is what has to be done.
The enforcement there was, this is what has to be done, or the city won't issue a building permit. This is what has to be done, or the city won't issue the occupancy permit.
Well, I don't know if
I'm
it
wondering
actually-
what our enforcement is
Well, okay,
here.
I don't know if it'll come down to occupancy permit, okay? Say if they give it to them anyways, but if they don't meet the conditions, then they have to come back before the board, and we can change the condition.
I think we could word it so that if the applicant does not comply with recommended mitigation measures from DPD, then additional grades cannot be increased.
I think we're gonna have, I think we'd better make sure we cover ourselves with some language like that.
Sure.
Because we had, those other cases
Yeah,
you bring up,
that's-
there was already occupancy permits, there were already building permits that could be withheld to enforce it. Unless we put something in our conditions that create that enforcement, I don't see what's to stop them from opening up in September and letting in the 7th grade kids in. What do we, they don't need another piece of paper to let those 7th grade kids in, unless we put it in our conditions that they do.
But I mean, we can amend the condition at any time, same as you're requesting us to do this evening, as we did 3 years ago. This is an amended condition. On a new site plan to amend previous conditions, that 17 outlined. So the Mornington situation would come before us, and we could amend it either way.
Well, yes, that's because the applicant's coming to us with an application that he needs approved.
Right.
Under the scenario we're talking about here, they wouldn't need to.
Oh, they
get
wouldn't have to
something
come
else.
forward at all. Planning staff brings it forward. They could either come and participate, or we have a public hearing without them.
But we can amend the conditions, we can change conditions on their site plan review permit now from the last one, because they're submitting an application, a new application, and we can
And
issue
we
the
can
permit.
review it on the other way due to the fact they're not complying by the conditions as monitored for public safety as indicated by Mr. Dirk. If a public safety issue come to our attention, conditions not being met, we have every right under our regulations to make a conditional change. Because it's a conditional approval if we approve it,
Okay.
and it's not being met.
And we certainly can incorporate the language.
Yeah, because the whole thing is to monitor it, and everybody's in agreement to monitor it.
Right.
And as
Sides.
Jeff said, we want to monitor it, and as soon as something stops it on 6 months, fix it then. We're not going to wait till it gets to go and go and go. As he says, it's a public safety issue. That's the first thing that's listed on the site plan review. It's public safety. And for this to work properly, everybody's in the opinion that it has to be monitored to work, to make sure it meets this public safety standards, to make sure that the traffic and pedestrian access is safety for the public.
Right.
So that's why I feel comfortable on it, but if other boards feel otherwise, then we'll bring it to a vote and see where it goes.
I'm comfortable with it, too. I think the proper controls are in place to move the project forward.
If that's a cleaner and more palatable way to do it, as long as we maintain that monitoring and control, and to make sure that the plan is working, I'd be fine with that, as opposed to my original suggestion. One question, though, Judy, maybe you can answer this for us. If we approve it at 843 conditionally, I would assume that the occupancy permit would be issued for 843, would it not?
Well, yes, that was a question I was just running through my head as well, and I wanted to just get clarification from the applicant that what I think I heard them say was that they need an occupancy permit for the 843.
The occupancy permit for 843 still doesn't allow, our condition is only 639. We're only going to occupy that amount of it. It just shows that we have the ability to go to
But
843
you get that.
if we comply with the conditions over the next 2 years.
Right.
So it's not, it's very consistent with what you're proposing.
In fact, actually, what you just described is slightly more, I think, even more restrictive than what we might have been thinking about. But if you're if that's acceptable, I think that's fine.
Might be correct, but unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I got to deal with that logistically.
So, as long as we have in our decision, in our condition, that some generic language even, that the applicant shall maintain adequate public safety and access for pedestrians and vehicles entering and exiting and passing by the site, then if DPD concludes that they're not doing that because they're not implementing some recommendation based on the monitoring program, then they're in violation of their special permit. They're in violation of their zoning permit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I was looking at, Joe, as language, is if the applicant does not comply with any mitigating measures recommended by DPD as a result of the monitoring program, the applicant must come before the planning board for resolution.
Yeah, that's good.
But, yeah, DPD and traffic engineer. I think that,
A resolution, sure.
Okay, and then we say, okay, and we're saying in our revised monitoring program condition that they are going to look at everything, and based on the reviews, the DPD will may make recommendations about changes they want to see.
correct.
Okay. And, okay. All right, I guess that covers the end I was looking at then.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're going to have to run all that by me and to make sure I get
I
that.
think Jerry has a list here, we're writing them down.
We're gonna try this,
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, the other, Nicholas and I were just conferring, and one thing we were maybe suggesting is that there are some overlap with the new conditions with regard to, the sidewalks, and there's some additional intersections that are being monitored. I was going to suggest that maybe DPD staff can come up with the appropriate language for the monitoring program in terms of the intersections, just in terms of all the areas that are now part of the monitoring program.
So,
It seems that we got to get this language right,
yeah,
make sure that we're completely covered.
well,
It
I mean,
also occurs to me that we're back here in 2 nights. Could
Jerry, take a
it
shot
take
at
the
that.
next couple of days for staff to put the language together properly, and then we issue our decision on Wednesday? Just to take a little longer, make sure that we're getting the language, that the language is coming out right? What does the rest of the board think
well,
of that?
either that, I mean, my thinking was it would be DPD develop the appropriate language for the monitoring program to encompass all vehicular and pedestrian safety measures. Is that
Monitoring.
really what you were looking to capture, or is that
I would add operational and safety measures.
operational and safety measures? Subject to planning board final approval on the wording on the condition, on the verbiage of the condition.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, subject, yeah, and if, it would be input from them, but subject to final approval by the traffic engineer and the planning board. And I'm assuming the applicant would not have a problem with that, so even if we're, after the fact, looking at that language, just to make sure it's incorporating. I think everybody agrees what we're trying to capture here. I don't think there's any disagreement in the room as to what we want to monitor. Am I correct there?
Oh, we just need it itemized.
Yes, so I have that one as DPD staff will develop appropriate language for the monitoring program to encompass all operational, vehicular, and pedestrian safety measures, subject to final approval by the traffic engineer and the planning board.
Yeah, that's, yep.
Good.
Good.
Can I just ask one question, just in regards to, I have no problem with that in regards to timing. If the board were to vote favorably, that would be tonight. I just want to make sure we can get our, because we're going to be moving for temporary occupancy for next week, so I just don't, this delay, if the board is going to vote on it tonight, the vote goes into effect. That's all I guess I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it's just more or less, if there's any issue with the crafting of the language, we would, I think it'd be more administrative at this end, make sure the language is crafted properly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we're capturing what we want to monitor, it's just the, I think that's fine. Because you're really talking about the details of the program.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the details of the monitoring program, exactly which intersections are going to be included, you know, who's going to be submitted to, what the timing is on the, you know, the exact timing, how the support report's going to be submitted. You know, what kind of
Incorporating everything that was discussed here this evening and presented this evening, right?
And then we've got, and then do we have in our conditions a statement that the applicant shall implement the recommendations of the monitoring program?
That was the, yes.
Okay,
That was the reason why if they do not, they would have to come before the planning board.
okay.
No. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan review for 1857 Middlesex Street, subject to the following conditions: to incorporate the traffic recommendations from the memorandum of August 10th from Judy Timon, items 1 through 5, to amend the language in condition 17, the original approval, to eliminate duplication of the applicant's cost for sidewalks by subtracting the cost incurred to comply with the city's current sidewalk ordinance from the original recommendation or condition of $150,000 to make this approval subject to the initial school year of 2016-2017, the maximum of 639 students, that the phasing in of the additional grades are subject to the applicant complying with all recommendations by the traffic engineer and DPD as a result of the traffic monitoring program. So the applicant must comply with all recommendations. Otherwise, the applicant is to come before the planning board for final resolution. Planning board and traffic engineer for final resolution. We had a discussion regarding, obviously, important issue here in the city has become the pilot program. We've discussed it at some length here this evening. We really were hoping to have a decision from the the law department, as the chairman had indicated, and would certainly refer the payment of the pilot program to the law department for final recommendation.
I have
The-
discussion, Jerry.
Yep, and then the various, on the memo of August 10th, we have, actually regarding the engineering department, there was, would make the applicant subject to full compliance with the recommendations from the engineering department. Also, the fire department is in final review of the fire suppression plans and fire access plans, subject to their approval. And also the applicant, working in conjunction with the city's traffic engineer, must determine the restriction recommended for, the parking restrictions recommended for Middlesex Street to be presented and approved by the city council. If I am missing anything else, please.
I had one for discussion, Jerry.
Yes.
To work with the, I guess, the Riverside Condominium Association. That lady had some concerns about flooding, and Mr. Moses had some concerns. If they can just continue to work with the abutting condo associations to resolve their issues. Something to that effect.
Sure. And for the, again, the applicant to continue to work with the butters regarding the issues that had been raised regarding the flooding and the grading. And once again, I believe the situation with the bump outs will need to be resolved. And again, that will be with the prior condition.
I'll second the motion.
Hold on, before we vote, the condition as it stands now, the school drop-off and pickup traffic management plan shall be revised in order to provide police detail officers located at entrance and exit driveways with the ability to enforce prohibition of student pickup or drop-off outside the school property along the roadways. Where that is called out by name, police detail officers, and it's in a separate condition from any of the monitoring or the condition Jerry just made, I think we gotta, if we wanna have some flexibility on that language, I suggest we simply add one further condition to this. Number 15, this condition may be modified by the board based on the review of the monitoring program.
I think we should leave it as is.
And, you know, the idea there being perhaps at some point in the future, we drop that to provide traffic control services located at the entrance and exit driveways as directed by the police department. I don't think we should do that now, but I think that we should have language, this can be modified, allowing us to do that at some time in the future.
Would it make sense to put that in conjunction with that 6-month monitoring?
It would. I think we should specifically refer to the monitoring
Right.
in this. Add a sentence
Yep.
to number 15 that says, this condition may be modified by the board based on the review of the monitoring program.
Okay, sure. I would go along with that, Mr. Chairman, as a,
Mr. Chairman, may I just ask, just on that point, there was discussion from the city's traffic engineer and Mr. Dirk regarding if you could just add the language to leave it to the police chief, either police detail or caution guards who are employed by the police department.
I would be comfortable with that, because we did recommend that they are more qualified to determine
Yeah,
who
they
should
should be
be,
the
who should be
governing
directing
bodies.
that traffic.
So you guys think that we should amend this to provide traffic, if everybody's looking at number 15, shall be revised in order to provide traffic control officers as directed by the Lowell Police Department, located at entrance and exit driveways.
Yes.
Okay?
That's how
So we just replace to police detail officers to traffic control staff as directed by the Lowell Police Department. That'll work?
Take that,
Yeah.
So we have a.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. Good luck. Thank you.
Right back. That's good.
hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, partner. Thank you. Yeah, good, thank you.
Good job, congratulations.
That's right. Always a pleasure.
I think the monitoring, like I said, operates, and it'll be,
I'm getting 50 grand. It's gonna work with that. 20 grand is gonna want 6 grand. Thank you. But you paid attention. It's important.
So we're
Good. Yes, thanks. Appreciate your help.
Okay, gonna be moving along to the next item on the agenda.
And that's why, Jerry said, we really kind of.
Well, it's them, they should be telling us, we get nothing, right? And you, I know what you said the last time.
By the manager, so what are we doing? We're referring it to the water department. You know what I mean?
That's a huge issue everywhere, really.
I mean, so what do? We refer it to the water department.
Yeah,
What else is there?
that's all we can do.
Perfect. I talked to 2 lawyers, and one being Joe Claremont. He says you got.
Oh, that's right, Joe,
I
yeah.
called him.
Yeah.
I said, what are we supposed to do then? He goes, don't act on it, don't let it from the water department. Let it hang your head on the water department.
That's the
And
way
make
to
sure
go.
it's in writing. And then read the letter, read the letter for record.
Right.
He says, but you got it.
That's right.
What you do, get that right. I said, all right.
You have to.
And I was told we had it done. That's right. I will defend you. I mean, yeah, that's like I said.
We'll defend you. Yeah, we need a little bit more than
I
that.
said, yeah, that's like you have to get arrested for OUA. You defend me. I don't want to get arrested to begin with. So I don't
Right.
want you to defend me, you know. Help me give you a letter. Don't take a watch.
You know what's kind of interesting about the university thing is, the University of Mass at Amherst, they have an agreement with the town of Amherst, city of Amherst, on that whole thing. That whole issue. That they could probably use to jump off. Okay, we gotta.
Get going. We got it.
Oh, Jerry's not gonna abstain on this thing. On Smith Street.
You gotta get it. I've talked to exes. Talked to people with lawyers in the field. Spoke with 2 judges I work with. Gotta get that letter. If not, that's true. He says you have to be a tree. Get the letter to you. You know, when I press them, they will not.
Get the letter, yeah.
You have to go. Let them put it in writing.
So you used the mouse last time, right, John?
What's that?
You did use the mouse last
Yeah,
time.
I think it reached. I think it reached. Yeah.
So I'll open it for you.
Yeah, open it up and then if they let me talk.
Okay. Okay, moving along to the next matter. We have a public hearing for manufactured home zoning ordinance amendment. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290, therefore entitled zoning, by including regulations of manufactured mobile homes in the City of Lowell. Let's see, we have the ordinance. I'm just trying to find, I just read that. This was an ordinance that was sent to us by the city council. The ordinance amend the City of Code, Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 90, therefore entitled zoning, by including regulations of manufactured mobile homes in the City of Lowell. It went on to like approximately 1, 2, 3 pages. This was referred to us from the city council as amended and sent to us by the city solicitor's office. And it goes on and says, by amending Article 2 entitled definitions, dwelling single family is hereby amended by inserting the word manufactured before the word mobile home. Said definition shall now read as follows: a detached dwelling other than a manufactured (parentheses, mobile home) designed for or occupied by one family, manufactured mobile home structure, transportable in one or more sections, which is built on a permanent chassis and is designed for use with or without a permanent foundation when attached to required utilities. Amend Article 9, overlay districts. The following 4 definitions are hereby amended under the section by inserting the word mobile between the words manufactured and home. The new definition shall read as follows: manufactured mobile home, a structure transportable in one or more sections, which is built on a permanent chassis and is designed for use with or without a permanent foundation when connected to required utilities. For floodplain management purposes, the term manufactured mobile home also includes park trailers, travel trailers, and other similar vehicles placed on a site from greater than 180 consecutive days. For insurance purposes, the term manufactured mobile home does not include park trailer, travel trailer, and other similar vehicles. Manufactured mobile home, park, or subdivision, a parcel or continuous parcel of land divided into 2 or more manufactured mobile home lots for rent or sale. Structure for floodplain management purpose, well, in roofed building, including a gas or liquid storage tank that is particularly above ground, as well as a manufactured home. Under structure, again, for insurance coverage purposes, means a walled and roofed building other than a gas or liquid stored tank that is principally above ground and affixed to the permanent site, as well as the manufactured mobile home on the foundation. For the latter purposes, the term includes a building while in the course of construction, alterations, or repair, but does not include building materials or supplies intended for use in such construction, alterations, or repairs, unless such materials or supplies are within the enclosed building on the premises. Amend Section 9.16, parentheses 2, B and C, entitled Procedures. Building Commissioner is hereby amended as follows. Both paragraphs B and C are amended by inserting words mobile between the words manufactured and home. Paragraph B and C shall read as follow. Number B, revised subdivision proposals and other proposed new development include manufactured mobile home parks or subdivisions to determine whether such proposal will be reasonably safe from flooding. If the subdivision proposal or other proposed new development is in a floodplain area, and such proposals shall be reviewed to assure that, 1, all such proposals are consistent with the need to minimize flood damage within the flood-prone area. Number 2, all public utilities and facilities such as sewer, gas, electrical, and water systems are located and constructed to minimize or eliminate flood damage. And 3, adequate drainage is provided to reduce exposure to flood hazards. Number C, require that all new subdivision proposals and other proposed developments, including proposals for manufactured mobile home parks and subdivisions greater than 50 lots or 5 acres, which is the lesser, include within such proposals based flood elevation data. Amend Article 12 entitled Table of Uses 12.1 by creating a new section under one manufactured home. It should be no in all districts and types. The ordinance shall take effect upon its passage in accordance with Section 7.1 of the Low zoning ordinance and the provisions of Chapter 43 and 48 of the Mass General Laws. I believe, Judy, this was an issue that went to the city council, and I believe there was 2 ordinances they had, and this is the ordinance that they created to send to us for our consideration, then we vote on this and send it back to them?
Yes, so this is, yes, a recommendation back to the city council.
Okay, okay, thank you. Anybody here this evening want to be heard on the new zoning ordinance that's being proposed?
Good evening. My name is John Hamblett. I live at 495 Varnum Avenue. I'm co-chair of the Pawtucketville Citizens Council and authored the amendment. Our thanks to the Law Department for putting it into the proper format. I'd like to take about 4 minutes to briefly describe why the change has come about. Okay, Judy, it's not in display mode. Got to be on. So while we're working on getting to the first slide, the original wording in the Lowell zoning laws were only referred to mobile homes, did not refer to manufactured homes. And the city interpreted mobile homes as being separate from manufactured homes. So the current laws refer only to mobile homes and not manufactured homes, and the proposed amendment treats manufactured homes and mobile homes exactly the same. So the first question is, what is the difference between a mobile home and a manufactured home? If you look at the picture on the left and the picture on the right, they look very much the same, and that's because the difference between a mobile home and a manufactured home is June 15th, 1976. On June 15th, 1976, HUD came up with a definition that said a factory-built home prior to June 15th is a mobile home, and one built after June 15th is a manufactured home, and that's the only difference. Let me describe to you what is not a mobile home or a manufactured home. A trailer is not a manufactured home. It is covered under separate regulations on the Lowell zoning laws. A modular home is not a manufactured home. It comes in big pieces, it's dropped into place by a crane, and it can create multiple story houses that adhere to all the current building laws. And we've met with the City Council Zoning Subcommittee, and they have been very clear, a tiny home is not a manufactured home. When that comes up, it's going to involve a whole series of different rules and regulations, including the building regulations, so tiny homes are excluded from this discussion. What do other federal and state agencies do? The federal government does not differentiate between a manufactured home and a mobile home. Massachusetts law does not differentiate between a manufactured home and a mobile home. The Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts does not differentiate between a manufactured home and a mobile home. I will be passing out the definitions that each of those departments use for your review. The Department of Transportation, Mass DOT, does not differentiate between a manufactured home and a mobile home, and the Massachusetts Registry of Vehicles does not differentiate between a manufactured home and a mobile home. In summary, the result of the proposed amendment is that manufactured homes, which are currently not covered under the Lowell zoning regulations, would be treated the same as mobile homes. Let me just pass out one piece of paper.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Why is this important, John?
Sorry?
Why is this important?
It is important because a manufactured home was placed in Pawtucketville on Varnum Avenue, and the city ruled that the mobile home regulations did not apply because there was a difference between mobile home and manufactured home. We want to make sure that that does not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to speak on the proposed ordinance? Anybody else? Anyone else? This time, if nobody else wants to be heard, I'll turn it over to the board members. Any board members have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, Mr. Fischett, please.
Just compliment Mr. Hamlet on authoring the change. And, you know, I am aware of the HUD requirements as well and the definition. And obviously, from a financing perspective, the difference between a modular home, and modular homes are, look very much like a conventional home. And clearly, what prompted this is the structure that's up there. You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, and it certainly does. I think this is an appropriate response, and I do believe that this does address what happened there. And by adding that to the table of uses, it doesn't create any kind of an option. It's just right across the board. It's not allowed. And I think that's the appropriate solution there. And again, no one is trying to eliminate affordable housing in the city. It really is, we're talking about streetscape, we're talking about a city that's worked very, very hard to, and it's come a long way when a development comes before us and houses are being built, that we're very cognizant of design, we're very cognizant of how that fits into a neighborhood, and it really is about addressing that type of situation, and clearly that was an undesirable result of what prompted this. So certainly I'm in support, and as I understand and as I look at the language, it is my belief that this certainly would address that issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Lockhart?
I have no questions. I would make a motion that we adopt the proposal and
Mr. Boyle?
recommend to the...
Any questions or comments?
Go ahead.
My only comment is to point out that the really important part of this, of the definition here, is built on a permanent chassis. We don't actually define chassis in our zoning code anywhere, so I looked it up. A chassis. It does not define in our zoning code or in this amendment or elsewhere in the zoning code, so we use the dictionary definition. A chassis is the frame, wheels, and machinery of a motor vehicle on which the body is supported. The frame, wheels, and machinery of a motor vehicle on which the body is supported. Okay, so what we're talking about here are things that are designed to themselves travel on the highway, not even be loaded onto a trailer or something. That they are the trailer themselves and can drive down the road. That is what is being forbidden by this. That is why it doesn't forbid manufactured housing or modular housing or any of these very clever little technologies that they've come up with. This bans things that are vehicles. This legitimately only bans trailers, things that are built to be a vehicle. And so I think that that narrows what is being forbidden here quite a bit more than has been done in some communities which have some really quite restrictive regulations, which really do seem to be written simply for the purpose of preventing lower cost housing and therefore families that don't earn as much money from being able to be in certain neighborhoods. This ordinance doesn't do that because it is strictly limited to built on a permanent chassis. That's the important part of this ordinance. That's why it's more acceptable than some other similar things that have been done in some communities, and that the superficial look this might bring to mind. What's being done here is different than some of what, quite frankly, can be fairly described as snob zoning, done simply for the purpose of keeping low-cost housing production from being possible. So, yeah, this is a sharply written zoning ordinance.
Mr. Snetsky, any questions, comments? No?
I'll second Mr. Flockhart's motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we, make a recommendation to the city council to adopt the ordinance as presented.
And second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
Okay, next matter we have is 98 Smith Street.
Good evening.
Okay, let's let me read the advertisement. Okay, wait 1 second. Just set up my new plans here. Gotta get my new packet out. The Lowell Planning Board and Zoning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by House of Hope seeking a site plan review and a special permit approval for 98 Smith Street. The proposal is to renovate and construct an addition to the existing structure in order to accommodate 17 residential units. The project will provide for 20 parking spaces. The proposed project is located in traditional multifamily zoning district and requires site plan approval under section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, and before you hear testimony, just to, for the record, I will be recusing myself on this issue.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Taylor. I'm with Klein Hornig, and I represent House of Hope with respect to the 98 Smith Street property. I'll be really brief. You guys already said most of what I was planning to say. The current building on the site is a 3-story Italianate structure, which is owned by Deauville Leadership Solution and was until recently used as the Horn Home for the Aged. That was a congregate facility for the elderly, and the property has been unused since November of 2015. House of Hope plans to acquire the property, renovate and preserve original elements of the existing structure, remove a current addition at the rear of the property, and construct a new 3-story addition in the rear. If approved, this project will provide 16 apartments to formerly homeless families, as well as one on-site manager's unit. The project is also slated to incorporate a common meeting space area, an outdoor picnic area at the rear of the property, and the applicant also plans to provide 20 parking spaces on the site. As you mentioned, site plan review is required based on 11.4 of the zoning code because the proposed expansion will create in excess of 3 dwelling units. We've also requested a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals to allow for the desired multifamily use and variances to allow for the proposed lot area per dwelling unit and open space per dwelling unit, as well as to allow for the proposed 20 parking spaces. I note that we're requesting conditional site plan approval. The board has requested some additional civil engineering data on the site plan, and the engineering department, I understand, has requested additional data concerning the stormwater management system. First, I'd like to introduce Deb Chose, Executive Director of House of Hope. And then I'm going to call up Eric Chamberlain of Davis Square Architects to tell you a little bit more about the design of the project. Deb?
Great, thank you. So, good morning, members. Good evening. And Judy, staff. So, I'm Deb Chassé. I've been the Executive Director at House of Hope and House of Hope Housing for the past 16 years. House of Hope is 30 years old this year, and House of Hope Housing is 14 years old. Our shelter organization consists of 18 units on Merrimack Street, 8 units on Varnum Avenue, and 2 units on Salem Street. We will soon be renovating the recently acquired Merrimack River Valley House on Fletcher Street, which will also be used for homeless families. Our housing organizations consist of 11 units called New Hope Apartments at 203 Salem Street, 7 units at 391 Pawtucket Street, and 3 units on Lakeview Ave. Photos of most of our buildings are there. As you will see, our properties are carefully renovated and proudly managed. House of Hope Housing is a nonprofit, but we do pay property taxes, about $25,000 per year right now for our existing properties. We are committed to developing family housing for our poorest neighbors. We provide not only attractive bricks and mortar, but also the support services that poor families need to overcome some of the barriers in their lives. We are committed to being good neighbors. We are committed to enhancing and supporting our neighborhoods. We have a track record that is recognized both locally and statewide, and we yearn for the day when shelters are no longer needed because developers like House of Hope Housing recognize the value of stabilizing families and offering children the permanence and safety of a home and preserving the beauty and the history of magnificent buildings like the former Horn Home at 98 Smith Street. Total development costs for this project is over $4 million, and the Commonwealth has shown an interest in significant funding and operating support. House of Hope Housing will raise a majority of the additional dollars required to develop this program. The City of Lowell is also financially supporting this project. These public dollars and our sense of mission require that these properties are operated long-term as permanent affordable housing. At the end of the day, 98 Smith Street will be beautifully preserved, add desperately needed housing for low-income families, and it will be managed by the skilled housing staff at House of Hope Housing. So now let me introduce you to Eric, one of our architects at Davis Square, who will walk you through the design.
My name is Eric Chamberlain. I'm with Davis Square Architects. I believe most of the program has already been explained to you, but I can walk you through some of the particulars here on the drawings that are up on the boards. The existing building is an Italianate structure, historic home that then was added on to many times over the years. You can see in the pictures kind of haphazardly at times. There's different floor levels within the building. They're chopped up into little rooms, and it's really not a structure that's viable to continue using for the type of housing that House of Hope provides. So the plan is to demolish the additions on the back, preserve the original home on the front, but remove all of the additions that have been tacked on over the years. And then do a new addition on the back, which will provide the housing that we're talking about, the permanent housing for families. So the current arrangement of the site, people enter from a driveway off of Smith Street. The driveway wraps around the entire building, comes down the other side of the building, and back out to Smith Street again. And there is a sort of circular drive in the front of the building. We'll be preserving that same arrangement. We'll just be extending the drive further back to get around the larger addition on the back, but the arrangement is the same. So there'll be some parallel parking spaces on the left side of the plan, the top of the plan as it's arranged there, and then some angled parking on the bottom side of the plan as arranged there. It'll be a one-way drive. That had been one of engineering's comments. It will be a one-way drive around the building and back out again. The existing fencing that surrounds the property will be replaced. We'll be using solid fencing to give a little more privacy to our neighbors, also to hide the trash enclosure, which again was something that engineering had asked for, and we're happy to accommodate that request. That would be our standard specification anyway. I can put up here one of the floor plans. And actually, let me flip to the elevation as well. So the elevation of the new addition will be 3-story, just like the building is now, extending back towards the back of the building. So the two elevations you're looking at there are the two sides, the two long sides of the property. I have the front and the back also if you'd like to see them. The front remains virtually unchanged. Again, we're trying to preserve that front structure as much as we possibly can. And then in the rear, we'll have a double-loaded corridor, units on each side, fully sprinklered with egress stairs, fully compliant with the building code in every possible way. And then you see the floor plan there, and there's a small community space in the front of the building in the historic home. The rest of it is dedicated to the apartments. There is one small studio apartment where the management staff will live. They're 24 hours, is that right? Yeah. So there's a management staff on site 24 hours a day. So if anything comes up, they're there to address the abutters' concerns, deal with whatever the tenants need, et cetera. The materials on the outside of the addition will be in keeping with the historic home. They'll be clapboards, painted clapboards with traditional trim and detailing. The windows will be new fiberglass windows, double hung, again, just like what's on the existing structure now, trying to stay in the keeping of that existing home.
Folks have any questions?
Yeah, just the one from engineering that says, the plans still show no effect, et cetera. They are not stamped by land surveyor, and the one plan they did have stamped was dated 2005. Plan A000 does not show any offsets. The parkings are not shown, does not show any offsets, and looks like they don't meet zoning.
Correct. So
That's a question, I guess.
We were able
That was sent to us, I guess, from engineering, so, I mean, did you get a copy of that? So
Yes.
Okay, all right.
We were able to address some of those late last week. So the new plan, which was sent to engineering, does have some of the dimensions they were looking for. They're absolutely right. We don't have a fully engineered drawing at this time. That's why we're looking for a conditional approval. We definitely need to keep working with engineering to make sure we've satisfied their parking requirements and make sure that we have the stormwater system in place that they were looking for.
So how many parking spots will you have on site?
We will have 20.
And can you give us a layout on one of your plans where those parking spaces would be?
Sure.
Sure. And how they, which way they're facing in, whether they're parallel or
Yep,
whether
absolutely.
they're angular, whichever, I mean.
So there are 8 spaces here, parallel spaces along the drive on this side.
Okay, so when you're going in, that's on the left side, right?
We're coming in this way, and then it'll wrap around the building, and then we have 45-degree angle spaces here for the other 12. One of
When I
which
went in,
will
I
be-
went on your right side, then I'm on the left side. But, okay, I know where your parking is, but,
Yeah.
yeah. I went the half in the front first, then I did the whole circle from behind, okay.
Yes,
I
correct.
noticed you had some parking, so, okay. So what's the numbers again, I'm sorry, how's it go?
There will be 20.
Okay, and where they gonna be again? I mean, I know you showed me, how many there?
Yep, 8 here,
Okay,
12 down here.
12 down there, okay.
so with the 8 on the left side, you still have plenty of room to make your loop and everything, and,
Yes,
okay.
correct.
The 12 are angled, right?
These 12 are angled 45 degrees.
okay.
I could bring this closer if that's helpful at all.
No,
All right,
it's
it's
okay.
right here.
I can
Yeah,
just-
it's right here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see it, but I just wanted to see it from there, yeah. Okay.
Are you adding any pavement or just working on the existing pavement?
We'll be replacing the pavement, but we will be adding some in that the existing drive comes in and cuts across here, so the added would be kind of the length here, and the length here would be the added impervious area. Because the driveway is now longer to get around the longer addition.
And it works out to a net increase in impervious area.
There is a net increase in impervious area, correct?
Okay.
The other item that you had mentioned was the surveys, the drawing that they were referring to that was out of date. We do have in process a new survey that was started in April. It's currently in draft form, but it's going to be updated very shortly, and we'll have that shortly. That's the drawing that has the old date on it.
How do you handle your drainage?
The drainage right now flows surface towards the front because there's a significant amount of ledge. It's actually, you can see it in
Yeah.
the basement already. So we will continue that same system. It will flow overland And we're going to use this front yard for the drainage infiltration system.
Okay.
Because you have a little bit of a slope going down there, right, in the front?
There is a slope there, yeah. That's actually one of the variances that we're seeking is for open area, because although we have a nice big green lawn, it's too steeply sloped per the zoning ordinance to be counted.
So what do you need for the, at the ZBA for the variances? I know you need us and them as indicated.
Yeah, so we need a variance for usable open space, which as Eric was alluding to, the reason we need that is because so much of the front is pitched.
Right, yeah.
Also for lot area per dwelling
Per
unit.
dwelling, okay.
And to approve the actual use.
Oh, okay. Oh,
because-
the use in that zone, I got you, okay.
Yeah, although there's
zone.
a number of multifamily structures in that area.
And you have a church right across the street, but yeah, you have a lot of multifamily up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, both up here and down here is multifamily. And parking number, right?
Yeah, parking number, thank you.
A bunch of dumpster, where is that located?
So we're gonna have an enclosed trash enclosure, which will have a 6-foot-high solid fence. And the
Okay, well,
trash
all
will
right,
be
I
put
see
out
that.
there.
Yeah, all right.
That was one of the comments that Eric was able to address in the last term of the site plan.
So, why don't I see if anybody else in the public wants to speak before I give any more comments to the board
Yeah.
members, okay? Anybody else here this evening want to speak in regards to this project? On 98 Smith Street, anybody else? No one else on anything? Okay. Now I'll go back to board comments. Rich, you want anything further you have to ask? Or?
Oh, I think they've covered most of the questions here.
So, Judy, I know they just telling us that they don't have, so what are they looking for, a new set of plans from engineering? Is that basically what they want? Are more detailed plans, I take it, or?
Yeah, essentially, the plans they provided, it's not an engineered site plan. And it needs to provide all the details that you have on an engineered
On the regular
site
plan,
plan.
okay.
And, you know, we need the drainage analysis. You know, we should be able to tell from the plans, as in with any other engineer plan, you know, where the differences in impervious surface. I think the setbacks that they're alluding to, the offset really is the setback for paving. If there's new paving, you have to have a setback of certain 3 feet, I think, from the property line. Yeah, we need to know, you know, what the size of these parking spaces are, what the distance of the aisle widths are, so that, you know, the traffic engineer can
Should have
look
the
at.
zoning requirement table up in the right corner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed. Again, we were able to get some of the dimensional things onto our drawing, but we do still need to produce that engineered drawing that has the rest of the information.
Mr. Boyle, any questions, comments?
I think we need more, you know, the additional information that the engineering department, the departments were asking for, and then we need to hear from them. But looking at this, as if we were taking this on the level of a conceptual plan, I think this is great. I think it's a good use of the building. I think, even though it doesn't, it's officially going in the books as a 17-unit multifamily home, with the on-site management, with the, you know, with being run by House of Hope, and we know how they operate their facilities, and where it is helping to advance this, an important public purpose, which is called out many times in our comprehensive master plan. It's, in a sense, it's remaining in sort of an institutional use as it was as a when it was the home horn, where it's an elderly home. You know, it's called a 17-unit multifamily building, but it isn't going to operate as the way a privately run standard 17-unit rental would operate. It's I don't have a problem with, for example, the parking numbers. I would have a big problem with that number of parking spaces on a regular 17-unit multifamily home, where this is something different. You know, I'm much more comfortable with that. You know, physically, from the building perspective, it's a very attractive project. I like the way they've done that, and based on their project narrative, made me go back and look through the housing section of our comprehensive plan. And this really does help advance a lot of important city goals. Number 4 under housing, maintain an abundance, they use the word abundance, maintain an abundance of affordable housing for rent or purchase, and strive to maintain the relative affordability of housing in Lowell compared to other communities in the region. This is achieving something really important. The city's very fortunate to have an organization like House of Hope operating here, doing things like this. With the housing crisis the way it is, with the homelessness problem the way it is, to have somebody who's so affirmatively taking up the cause and add a scale that can make a real difference, and do so in a way that does respect and improve neighborhoods. We're really fortunate to have House of Hope, and I would like to see really like to see this project go forward. We need more details before I think we can, give the final okay. But on a conceptual level, this is something that's really great for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Well. Mr. Snetsky?
I agree with what's been said. I think we should, just ask, for a continuance to the shortest possible date they feel they can meet, come back, and I'd be reasonably confident that we can go forward with this.
On your parking anyways, how many usually, like you talk about 17 units, but how many of your people actually you think will have cars? I mean, I know, you probably know from past practice.
People that manage it,
Actually,
too.
Jim Lucina is an assistant director at
Okay,
shelter.
so, it's easier for us to figure out.
She knows the answer to that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. If you just come forward, Mr. Mike, because people think we're talking to ourselves at home sometimes.
Yeah. So the question
Which
is
we are sometimes, but.
actual number of cars that are.
Yeah, so I mean, I know you're talking like 17 people, but how many, do they all have cars you anticipate, or? No, I didn't think so.
Our largest building has 11 units, and there are 8 cars, and that's the most we've ever had.
Because we're being successful getting them more self-sufficient.
Yes,
that's right.
and we've just we've never had a situation where the number of apartments, the number of cars outnumbered the number of apartments.
Because we had some past projects where it was a coalition for a better acre, and it didn't meet the requirement for all the parking, but planning staff went out and did a survey and everything else, and the applicant said to us, all these people don't have cars, I'm telling you. I mean, they're lucky if we can get them in the housing, never mind give them an automobile. That's the least of their concern is getting an automobile.
Right.
They want a roof over their head before they want 4 wheels under their feet,
Yeah, typically, the income levels for the families, that a car is a bit of a luxury, so. And, we're living in Lowell, there's a great transit system, and
I think, Joe, that was part of what you were getting for this type of operation. You wouldn't be, you'd have no problem with the parking where in a different situation for 17, you'd want them.
Oh, exactly. A regular 17-unit rental housing,
Look at like 34 parking spaces.
Yeah, if we approved a standard 17-unit market rate rental with 20 spaces,
Yeah,
we
it
wouldn't make it
wouldn't
home
fly.
that way.
It shouldn't fly.
Yeah, 'cause I know,
Actually,
so the parking, you don't feel you have plenty of what you think you'll need, right?
Oh, yeah.
if we actually got to a place where every household had a car, we'd be very happy, but that hasn't
Very
happened yet.
successful in what you're doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed in
And
your,
that's something we consider when we look at what are the needs for the people in our city,
yeah. In your narrative,
And
there
we
was,
understand that need,
you must have seen the same, language I did in their project narrative. You talked about how you had done a study of your properties to determine the parking demand?
Well, a study to determine the parking? Well, yeah, we counted the number of units, and we counted the number of tenants, and we counted the number of cars, so,
Yeah, that's pretty much all you do.
Yeah.
I've done those.
yeah.
That's
And
investigated.
we also tried to take a little bit of a longitudinal look over how many of our tenants are likely to gain access to a vehicle.
Yeah.
So we're very confident that this number of parking spaces is going to be more than adequate.
As you talked about how it was a relatively simple process, still, that's very valuable data. If you could provide that to the city, if you could provide that to the DPD, or to us, that would be good information to us to have, might have other future applications.
Yeah, great.
So if you could.
Be happy to do that,
Great.
yeah.
So,
If I could just sort of mention a little bit about where we are in terms of the application, why we're here before you today, and why we've been trying to push this along, even though we have not admittedly submitted all the data that we need to get you. We have applications pending for funding through the state and through the city. And at a certain juncture in that application process, they don't really take you too seriously if you don't have zoning approval. So that's why there is some urgency on our side, even to the extent that we can get conditional approval pending the different type, the further engineering data on the site plan and the additional information on the stormwater facility.
And if I could add, we couldn't really come before you much earlier this summer because we had HUD requirements to do environmental review studies in partnership with the city that we couldn't move forward with this process until we got that process done. So it's been a little bit of a tenuous dance in terms of timing. And we have what we need from HUD now, and Duville has been wonderful in terms of being patient with us as we move forward on the acquisition, so.
Is that row of bushes along the front of the property line that you have to take out for your fence, you said, is that the only vegetation you're removing? Are you cutting any trees?
Not that I know of, no.
Because on both sides, those two screens, those are on your neighbor's land, aren't they?
They are,
On
that's
both
correct.
sides.
Yep.
Okay.
Would a delay, say, till the September 8th meeting impact your ability to proceed with your funding?
Well, we will be filing applications prior to that. Let's see. Could we get something in writing from this board saying that on the surface, it looks like a good project and you're all just waiting for a little bit more of the engineering detail? Something that would indicate the support that I was so happy to hear here tonight.
You mean like that we have approval for the conceptual plan, and we're just waiting for final details on certain engineering plans?
That would be, that would be,
nature?
that would be perfect.
I mean, whether we did that and,
Or even if that language is too strong, just anything that says we've been before you and that you all think it's a viable project pending the rest of the details.
I don't have a problem with doing like on a conceptual idea until we get the engineering. What do you think of that, Joe?
Yeah,
As long as the wording
if
is
we had a preliminary and definitive, the way we do with subdivisions, we could approve a preliminary tonight.
I can see where they're coming.
I mean, I can understand, yeah, and then, would you be able to have the plans? I mean, if we give you that conceptual idea and have the plans, I mean, our next meeting is September 8th, though, it's not too far away. Would you have everything by then? And, then you have to give like a week ahead of time to submit it to department head so they can make the, because you want to make sure they have a chance to review it.
Yep. Yep.
And a plan this big, as long as what you have on there that they need, shouldn't take too long, right, Judy? I mean, something of that size, once,
June, we've already had the engineer on site, right?
Yes.
So do you think the turnaround of before September 8th, a few days before, would be doable?
Are you talking about for the site, for the surveyor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that would be.
Great. Yes, I think we could get that in,
because that's our next meeting. I mean, we could go long, but it sounds like you'd rather do sooner than later.
yeah, without putting too much pressure on you guys, we'd prefer to move it forward if we could. I mean, we need this stuff anyway, so.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, because we, I mean, when the city departments want that certain criteria, I mean, I can understand where they're coming from, and usually we don't approve it without that, we need the detail,
Yep, yep.
And if you're working on it, you get some of it halfway there, and it's just a matter of finishing up. I think maybe, it probably wouldn't be a vote, but Judy, if we could send a letter on behalf of the planning board, maybe stating that before us this evening, the planning board discussed how they would favor the concept, and they wouldn't, they're coming back on September 8th to have more detail on the engineering plans. Would that be something suitable to that language and board members, or?
Yeah, I'm in favor
Yeah,
of
that
that.
sounds
Do you think
good.
that language is okay, or, I mean,
Yeah.
In fact, to help out the
Judy
applicant
can
more,
read that.
I,
yeah, if you have any problem phrasing that, if you have any questions, you can email
What the
them,
intent
you know,
is.
but conceptually, we approved it, but we're waiting final detail of engineering plans.
Yeah, I could definitely put together
And then sign my
a
name
memo.
on the chairperson on behalf of the planning board.
Yeah.
Would that help?
perhaps.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah,
Perhaps it would be of greatest use for the applicant to make and adopt a motion to that effect, so that it's an official act of the board. The board's taken an action.
Yeah. Well, but they said if we had a letter just saying we're conceptually on board.
Yeah,
That
that's,
could be
that's,
enough.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'd
so I
make a
mean-
motion that we ask DPD staff to draft a letter expressing the board's opinion that this is that we approve this project.
Conceptual idea pending
Conceptual.
final engineering.
Uh-huh.
I think, Judy, you have the gist of that, basically? Yeah. Okay. All right,
And,
so maybe what we could do, we'll make a motion, continue to the September 8th, and you can keep me in touch with Judy, and she can draft up something, and we'll send it over to you.
Great.
Anything, any further discussion, anything else you want to bring us up to date on, or while you're here? I know you waited most of the night, to give you plenty of time to speak now. You're the last guys here, so I mean.
That helps them, that helps them.
But I mean, conceptual, I don't have a problem with the plan. I mean, obviously, like to see, traffic and engineer said, make sure the traffic guy thinks, you can swing around the back there, no problem. I mean, you have a pretty good idea whether it's gonna fit or not. I mean, and I drove up there, it looked okay, but you like to have them just, in a plan of this size, I don't think it'll take them a long time for detail if it's on there,
Fire department will have to make their,
Yeah, you gotta get all,
get a truck through
you
there.
need all that feedback.
And usually where it's an area like that, whether they just run it from the street or not, it's up to them,
We can give them access all the way down one side, and I think with the new NFPA regulations, that's enough for them to get their hoses around as long as
Okay.
they're within 200
Right.
feet. So I think we'll meet their requirements.
And then, if it comes back and we have most of the engineering and we have one that's like the fire department still not out there, then, I mean, it's easier for us to do a conditional approval.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. All right, anybody want to make the motion? We continue to September 8th? That okay
I'll
with you?
Make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Snitsky,
I'll
make the
second the
motion.
motion.
Motion's made and second. We'll draft the conditional ideas that we're in favor of the matter, and we'll see you back on the 8th. Okay? Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. The motion carries. We have 4 for and 1 abstention.
Thank
Luck.
you,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
See
gentlemen,
you
very
soon.
much.
Wish you well.
Yeah, that'll work for us.
Okay, moving along. Do we have any updates from any of the board members?
I have one quick one from the historic board. We had kind of a quiet summer with public hearings, but our administrator, Steve Stoll, has been working very hard on the downtown building sign program that's been very well received. We're getting a lot of good positive feedback, and our next meeting will be September 12th. And we anticipate some additional activity at that point.
Any other board members have any follow-ups? I mean, not Judy, any follow-up from staff? If not, we'll see you shortly.
See you Wednesday, yeah.
See you on Wednesday.
And that's across the hall, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Because one
Oh, that's
advertisement
right,
had it
that's
here and one
down
had it over
there,
there.
yeah. Down there.
There was a conflict in this room.
Yeah. Who's in here, the school committee?
I don't know.
School committee's Wednesday night.
Yeah, what in the summer session?
It's usually conservation, but they don't have a meeting this week.
Well, this is open, we'll come here. If not, we'll go there.
Sorry?
This is open, we'll come here. If not, we'll go
That's
there.
right, that's right.
So we'll meet in the hall.
Right.
If this is open, can this
Yeah.
be broadcast?
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, because.
Well, if it's open, yeah.
Bob won't be here, so if that thing gets continued, they
yeah.
won't be able to watch that.
If not, they'll have the recording of it, yeah.
They will make a recording.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That's a Judy.
So you can watch it.
Judy, if we have it here, do we have to line it up with LTC? Because they're saying if we're down 2 members and something gets continued, if they want to sign off on it, they might want to wait, we have to watch it. Because he can't make it and Bob's still out of town.
Jeez.
And then they could go through the recording.
Right, so we will have that digital recorder.
Okay. But I mean, if,
We won't have LTC.
Some kind of record.
Does that fall under the mowing?
It doesn't have to
well,
appear on
the moment,
cable.
if it's recorded, it's okay.
As long as it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It says recorded, viewed, yeah.
Right.
It covers it under video or recorded, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right, so I have used that recorder with the Conservation Commission. I haven't used it with the planning board, but it's an actual digital recorder, and it works pretty well in terms of capturing all
But
the
we've had it-
conversation in the
we've had it
room.
over there.
And I've used it in that room, yes.
Because as of now, I think we'll have 3 things on, right?
Right now, we only have,
Well, we have the one thing that Christine sent to us, then we have Third Street that was continued to the 8th, and then this
Third Street.
matter.
there's, right, right.
But there was a new project that we got an update on that said it's coming in September.
Right, so,
Is that on Broadway Street or somewhere? I forget what it was. Christine sent us the update.
I was afraid to
Yeah,
fold it
for
down.
for Wednesday, it's just Popeyes and,
Jump the line there,
No,
yeah.
talking about the 8th, on the 8th.
Yeah,
The
that's
eighth
right.
is just at
8th, I believe
Broadway.
there's 3.
Oh, yeah, Broadway, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So for Wednesday, we have the Popeyes and we have Thorndike.
And the, right, the Thorndike Street.
Because on Thorndike, they're looking for a special permit as well.
Yes.
Have to let them know we only.
Yes, several special permits.
Yeah, so you have to let them know we only have 4 members if they want another date.
Right, I know, there's only going to be 4 members.
Because he's unavailable, and unfortunately, Bob was in a car accident, hopefully he's okay, we'll be back a little bit later, but.
Yeah.
So if you want to let the applicant know that, unfortunately, we only have 4 members, if they want to come forward with the site plan, if not, they want a future date.
Yes, I will let them know.
And if they
Yep.
feel they want the 5 full board members, and they don't have to be here, they can send a letter, would that be agreeable to everybody?
Yeah.
You know, instead of making them show up on Wednesday, but if they want the 5 members, because we won't have, because they need 4 votes on the special permits.
Right.
If they want the 5 members, just tell them to send you a letter, and I believe
Yep.
we're in agreement to continue it, to make them come in,
Yep.
and that way, they'll give them time. Just say, unfortunately, we only have the 4 members, because we usually do that at the start of the meeting, but if you give them a heads up tomorrow, the day before, let them think it over.
Yep.
Yeah, because sometimes,
I'll-
especially when you need all. Because how many special permits they requested, I forget now, is it?
Well, they have the conversion of an older building special permit, they've got the parking special permit, and it's the use,
Use, right,
the
yeah,
use special permit, so there's at least 3,
yeah,
and site plan review.
yeah, yeah. So site plan, you need the majority, which would be the 3, and the other 3, you need all 4 votes.
4, right.
Now, did they need any other relief besides this board? They have to go to ZBA for anything?
They do not have to go to ZBA.
They don't need that for the parking, no?
They do not.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they had to go to ZBA for something.
No.
Okay, yeah, so you can let them know tomorrow if they have any questions. You can follow up an email, let us know ahead of time.
Okay, I'll do that.
Anything else? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. We are adjourned, and thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
5 more months to go around, we got here.
Yeah.